Chapter 206. The fake emperor tore through the void, and a path of nothingness seemed to pass through time and space. Ripples appeared in front of him, and at the end of the path was a barren ancient world. Ferocious beasts were everywhere, and they were extremely powerful. Ferocious birds swooped down, and the beasts at the Tao Master level were torn apart without any resistance. This was really a dangerous place. It was vast and boundless. Even if 100,000 people entered, it would be like a grain of sand in the ocean. They would not be able to cause any waves. The space is folded. Even if you enter from the same place, you will be sent to different places. Therefore, candidates who have formed teams, I suggest that you hold hands and try not to be separated, Heavenly Palace God reminded them in a low voice. Everyone looked at each other and began to contact their own teams or acquaintances. Whoosh! A golden light flashed. Lin Aoqiong touched the void and floated over. He bowed slightly to the fake emperor and said to Heavenly Palace God, "Brother Heavenly Palace, please give me a life token." Heavenly Palace God was stunned. He did not expect this genius to participate in the assessment. However, he was delighted. With Lin Aoqiong around, at least there would not be any major problems if they worked together. The assessment would be successful, and he would have a greater chance of reaching the 5-star level. A life token was soon completed, and everyone rushed toward the entrance. Heavenly Palace God had been watching the crowd. He noticed that Yi Qinghan's team had 2 Fate Palace Realm kids. He could not help but frown. He stepped forward and asked in a low voice, "Who is the leader?" Yi Qinghan looked up at Heavenly Palace God. He was young, but he had already reached the middle level of the Celestial Gate. He saluted with his fists and replied, "I am the leader. Beginner Tao Master and 2 Fate Palace Realm Warriors. You will die if you go in like this. There are 8 of you, and only the 2 of you are qualified to participate in the assessment. Whether you can come back alive is still uncertain. I advise you to leave immediately," Heavenly Palace God reminded them kindly. "Thank you for your reminder. We are determined to participate in this assessment, and we are confident that we can come back alive," Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. The corner of Tian Gongshen's eyes twitched as he stared at Yi Qinghan, Emperor Yi, and Lin Wuxian. He realized that something was wrong. Lin Wuxian looked like a sword standing there, motionless and calm. Emperor Yi, on the other hand, was scanning with his eyes closed. He could not find her at all. Yi Qinghan gave him an indescribable feeling. Could it be that I have misjudged them? Heaven Palace God muttered to himself. He was now more interested in this team and did not try to stop them. But Heavenly Palace God. And Lin Aoqiong Wuqian, but when he saw Emperor Yi of him. And Emperor Yi. Yi Qinghan didn't care about the strange gazes from the outside world and walked hand in hand with the crowd. Whoosh! As soon as they entered the entrance, the Milky Way reversed, and the stars moved. The pattern of the law of space was reflected in Yi Qinghan's eyes. The jade pendant in the interspatial ring reacted violently. The golden dragon and the water dragon intertwined. The jade pendant penetrated the ring and entered Yi Qinghan's mind. It spun continuously, and the law of space evolved automatically. Boom! The 8 of them entered the ancient world. The gravity here was surprisingly strong. Mu Yu Tianchen and Gu Qingyu, who were great martial venerables, could not fly. They fell directly to the ground. Yi Qinghan was shocked. He grabbed Emperor Yi and slashed down with his heavy frenzied saber. The earth rumbled and the mountains cracked. They took advantage of the force to land and rolled continuously. They were in a mess. Roar! As soon as the 8 of them landed, an ancient beast opened its bloody mouth and rushed toward them. Its mouth was full of gloomy fangs, and the stench of blood was nauseating. Hum! Gu Qingyu pulled out his sword and turned it into a long rainbow. He and his sword became one and pierced through the beast's mouth. The cold sword chi shattered the beast's vitality and the sword pierced through its body. In the blink of an eye, a powerful level 5 ominous beast at the level of Tao Master was killed. The sword light flickered, and the demon core appeared in his hand. He put it into his life token. The life token automatically counted the demon core. A rank 5 lower demon core could only be counted as a contribution point. Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and looked at the ancient world. He found that there were mountains everywhere. They were majestic, and the vicissitudes of time covered the sky and earth. The rolling pressure made people feel awe. This was the world of ferocious beasts. There were ferocious beasts everywhere. They had no intelligence, only greed and bloodthirstiness. Their eyes were red. The birds in the sky were especially powerful. Their sharp claws could almost tear apart mountains and rocks. They could even uproot ancient trees. The jade pendant in Yi Qinghan's mind exploded at the critical moment. He could not cultivate in peace. I have a situation. I need to cultivate in seclusion for some time. The 6 of you should not go too far. It is too dangerous here. Help me at any time if you are close. Yi Qinghan said. He brought Emperor Yi and rushed toward a mountain. They dodged a few terrifying ferocious beasts and entered a narrow cave. He said to Emperor Yi, "My son, protect me. This time, I will try to comprehend the profound meaning of the space law." Yi Qinghan set up an array at the entrance of the cave. He covered his breath and sat cross-legged on the ground, wholeheartedly trying to comprehend the law in the jade pendant. The law was rich and profound meaning appeared. Together with the runes of the space chapter of the Divine Martial Imperial Code, Yi Qinghan's face turned red. He gritted his teeth and endured the pressure of the Divine Martial Imperial Code and the damage that the runes brought to his soul. He tried his best to absorb the profound meaning. His divine senses finally found the substance of space. Through the spatial patterns, he could sense another point in space through the folding method. Yi Qinghan was overjoyed. This folding method made space not a flat surface, but a three-dimensional ball. He could go from one point to another in the shortest distance possible through the internal space. 2 points were folded directly, ignoring the distance. No matter how fast one's speed was, it could not be so terrifying. Of course, this was only in the case of long distances. In short distances, speed was still the key. There was no need to waste his mental strength to use the space law. Go. Yi Qinghan flicked his finger. A wisp of energy passed through the array at the entrance of the cave. However, it did not activate the array. It went through another space. If it attacked someone, it would be impossible to guard against. He had taken the first step. Now, he had to practice diligently to reach the point where he could use the least amount of mental strength to sense the space node from an extremely long distance. When the space law reached the small success stage, one could instantly travel through a region. When it reached the large success stage, it would not be a problem to travel through the entire universe. If he reached the great perfection stage in theory, he would be able to travel through the future and the past. He could even allow Yi Qinghan to reverse the situation of Owl Warstar. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. He had only sensed a few meters in front of him when his mental strength was completely depleted. His face was pale. With his current strength, the space law did not have much practical use. After resting for an hour, Yi Qinghan's tiredness gradually disappeared. He entered the jade pendant to cultivate. The space here was folded clearly. Under the guidance of his mental strength, his divine sense slowly passed through the space barrier. The more he practiced, the more barriers he could pass through. It was unknown how long Yi Qinghan had been cultivating for. The outside world was plunged into darkness. The entire ancient world was in a frenzy. A murderous aura filled the air. Countless heroes trembled under the pressure. Even existences like Lin Aoqiong were tense. As for the others, their faces were pale and they were extremely nervous. Gu Qingyu and the others gathered together and chose a mountain range to defend. There were too many ferocious beasts, too many to count. They began to pounce on the human experts. Battle kings fell one after another. Their roars shook the ancient world. The birds let out mournful cries. More and more ferocious beasts appeared, causing the experts to panic. Hundreds of three-star hunters did not participate in the battle. They just watched indifferently. However, whenever a ferocious beast approached them, they would all be killed in an instant. The ancient world at night was a truly dangerous place. In order to survive, the experts of the human race banded together and formed battle teams. The heavenly palace god stood on the highest mountain peak. His clothes fluttered in the wind. He overlooked the endless ancient world. His divine sense spread out and found Gu Qingyu and the others. He found that Gu Qingyu was indeed a genius. His willpower was superb. Even in this situation of certain death, he did not panic. He had been fighting alongside several experts. His body was covered in injuries, but his improvement was quite fast. Where is the leader and the little girl? The heavenly palace god was surprised. This area of tens of thousands of miles was under his control, but he did not find Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi. Roar! The ferocious beasts rioted. The humans had joined forces, so they also began to fight together. Hundreds of ferocious beasts surrounded several human experts. In an instant, someone was torn apart alive. Blood splattered across the ground, dyeing the ancient mountain range red. Screech! A terrifying goshawk spread its wings, covering the sky and the sun. Its sharp claws shattered the void. It grabbed a great martial venerable expert and directly broke through his defense. It stabbed into his internal organs and tore his body apart. It swallowed all of his blood and qi. The large amount of vitality made it even more excited. The young experts of the human race were furious. They could not fly, so they could only passively defend against the ferocious beasts. Divine weapons could not break through their defense. There were countless casualties. Whoosh! Finally, someone from the human race exploded. Lin Aoqiong soared into the sky. His sword light pierced through the clouds. With a stroke of his sword, all the ferocious beasts within 100 miles were killed. His figure turned, and the sword light flashed again. The demonic cores were taken away, and the corpses fell from the sky. Blood stained the sky. Whoosh! 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 A few experts of the human race rushed out to counterattack the ferocious beasts. Their combat power was unparalleled. At the same level, they could kill their opponents in seconds. A large number of ferocious beasts began to rush toward the terrifying experts of the human race. Gu Qingyu, Muyu Tianchen, and the others were also attacked mercilessly. The golden brick smashed one ferocious beast after another. However, the opponent was endless. They could completely crush them with their numbers. The blood stimulated the ferocious beasts. The ferocious beasts that died tragically were devoured by their own kind. All kinds of unknown ferocious beasts appeared in the world. With a roar, all the beasts submitted, and the forest trembled. A page of the scripture was taken out, and the great Tao of the law filled the valley. In an instant, dozens of low-level ferocious beasts were killed. Muyu Tianchen's true origin was quickly consumed. He could not replenish it, and his combat power became weaker and weaker. Gu Qinyu's sword was like a rainbow, constantly killing the ferocious beasts. Shi Gu took out a large brick to block the sky, preventing the ferocious beasts from attacking. The 6 of them were dyed red by their own blood and the ferocious beasts. The aura of death descended, and they could only vent the fear in their hearts by roaring. Chapter 207. The ancient space at night was a dangerous place that made people despair. Even the great revered martial artists were roaring as they bathed in the river of blood. The experts hiding in the cave saw the human warriors bathing in the river of blood and felt their blood boil. They rushed out of the safe place to kill the beasts. More than 100,000 warriors fell very quickly. Tian Gongshan frowned. This experience seemed to be much more dangerous than the previous ones. Tonight's situation was too special. This ancient space originally did not have so many ferocious beasts, let alone level 6 ferocious beasts of the Immortal Gate realm. However, the endless stream of ferocious beasts had caught everyone off guard. In the end, a level 6 ferocious beast of the Immortal Gate realm had appeared. All 3-star hunters, attack. Tian Gongshan used the profound laws and roared. His voice penetrated the space and resounded through the clouds. Kill. This group of 3-star hunters was at the early stage of the Immortal Gate. They had only come to maintain order, but they had to participate in the battle. Once hundreds of Immortal Gate experts entered the battlefield, a sea of blood gushed out of the ancient space. Countless beasts died. The warriors were excited and their fighting spirit was high. Lin Aoqiong could block 10,000 beasts with one sword. The beasts in the sky were all his targets. Even if they were 100 miles away, they would be killed in an instant. This was the battle strength of the Imperial Prince. He did not panic in the face of danger. His attacks were elegant, fast, accurate, and ruthless, far surpassing those of the same level. The earth could not restrain him, nor could the space. His points far exceeded the others. After fighting for 4 hours, he had obtained more than 5,000 points. He was 3,000 points ahead of the second place. At this moment, Lin Aoqiong's realm was suppressed to the great revered martial artist realm. If he released his initial Immortal Gate realm, his battle strength would be even more ferocious. Gu Qingyu obtained 500 points. Muyu Tianchen obtained 520 points. The others could only passively defend. For now, they only had 10 points at most. Feng Wuxia's wind element was fierce. It formed a hurricane that crushed the mountain and tore the beasts' corpses into pieces. The smell of blood was very strong. It was nauseating, and no one wanted to fight. Nangong Xiaobei had never seen such a bloody scene. His face was pale. He could protect himself, but it was very difficult to obtain points. Boom! The mountain behind them was shattered by a huge beast. There was nothing to rely on. The 6 of them were surrounded and the situation was very dangerous. Kill. Wine. The 6 of them used all their trump cards. The golden brick, the 1-page scripture, and the rank 6 sword were all used to defend the sky. Boom! An unmatched 6th rank vicious beast slaughtered its way over, brandishing its heaven-covering palm to smash apart the void, smashing into the golden brick. The golden brick erupted with terrifying radiance, illuminating half of the void. Shi Ji's soul suffered heavy injuries, but his flesh was blocked by the immortal Sect Dao robes, otherwise, he would have died on the spot. Puff! Shi Ji's spirit was dispirited, and he no longer had the strength to fight. At this moment, he could no longer defend and could only take back the golden brick to protect himself. The rank 6 ferocious beast was sent flying by the explosion of the golden bricks, crashing into a lone mountain in the distance. Rocks flew everywhere, and the dead wood turned into fine powder that scattered in all directions. Its ferocity was triggered, and it bared its teeth, becoming even more brutal. Its 4 limbs stomped the ground, and the valley shook. Its mountain-like body charged towards the group. Everyone was shocked and retreated continuously. However, the other party's speed was too fast, and there was a blockade behind them. They immediately fell into despair. Ah! Go to hell! Nangong Xiaobei took out his trump card, the Heavenly Dipper Divine Thunder, and smashed it directly on the 6th grade vicious beast. Boom! The heavenly dipper divine thunder exploded, and countless lightning bolts tore apart the vicious beast's body. Blood sprayed out, and when it came into contact with the mountain rocks were instantly corroded, turning into rotten wood. When the air waves blew, it turned into fine powder. One could see how ruthless the vicious beast's blood was. The surrounding vicious beasts were affected, and dozens of vicious beasts died on the spot. The demon core was incomparably hard. When it fell to the ground, Nangong Xiaobei quickly put it away, and his points instantly broke through 1,000. He rushed into the top 100. Heavenly Dipper Divine Thunder. Xiaobei, do you have more? Muyo Tianqian was shocked and quickly asked. No more. Only this one, or else I would have thrown it out long ago. Why wait until now? Nangong Xiaobei helplessly replied. Damn it, why did a rank 6 vicious beast appear? Shi Ge was furious. These rank 6 vicious beasts were not something they could contend against. Gu Qingyu was silent. There was a fundamental difference between rank 6 and rank 5. There was only one Heavenly Dipper Divine Thunder, and if another one appeared, he would be powerless. The 6 of them were far away from the group, and there were no 3-star hunters around. This place might be very safe, but once a rank 6 beast appeared, it would be a real danger zone. Let's go. Although it's more dangerous to be close to the group, at least we don't have to worry about rank 6 vicious beasts. Muyo Tianqian led Nangong Xiaobei and rushed out of the valley, killing a bloody path. Gu Qingyu nodded. Right now, being close to the group was the wisest choice. The 6 of them fought madly, killing hundreds of vicious beasts in succession. However, their bodies were more or less wounded. A large number of dawn were quickly consumed. According to this calculation, the dawn they brought with them were not enough to last them for a month. Yi Qinghan cultivated bitterly for a day and a half, and finally woke up. He swallowed a dan, and his aura was overwhelming. He walked out of the valley with Emperor Yi. A rank 5 mid-tier violent bear charged out. It was more than 10 meters tall and had extraordinary strength. It pulled up a lonely mountain and smashed it towards Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi. Swoosh! A saber appeared out of thin air and silently appeared on the violent bear's head. The saber directly chopped off the violent bear's head. A saber light flashed and Xiao Chen obtained a rank 5 demonic core, earning him 10 points. Yi Qinghan's lips curled into a smile. He whispered, Space Law combined with Violent Saber is indeed useful. Within 50 meters, no one can be my opponent. Master, this space and another space have been opened. Countless vicious beasts are pouring in. Many powerful vicious beasts are killing their way in. Emperor Yi closed his eyes. His black hair danced in the wind, and his spiritual sense was abnormally astonishing. He discovered that something was wrong. Come up. You attack the soul, and I'll attack the body. Let's try to kill the enemy with one slash. Yi Qinghan stretched out his hand and lifted Emperor Yi, directly placing him on his shoulder. His legs clamped around Emperor Yi's neck, and he was completely riding him. The two of them merged into one and rushed towards the battlefield. Weng weng weng, Yi Qinghan stretched out his hand to take a look. Sure enough, it was a message from Gu Qingyu asking for help. Southeast, center of the battlefield. Yi Qinghan's figure flashed, and he used the divine dragon steps. His speed was so fast that he almost broke free from the ground. Everywhere he passed, the vicious beasts were killed with one slash. Violent saber flashed, and the demonic cores were taken away. Killing a beast in 10 steps, withered 1,000 meters of corpses. If Violent Saber attacked, all living creatures would submit. The zither music was vigorous and mighty, and killing intent was everywhere. It shattered the 9 heavens and rushed towards the center of the battlefield. At this moment, the 80,000 to 90,000 strong cultivators were divided into 2 major battlefields. One was around Lin Aoqiong and the other was 10,000 miles away from the heavenly palace god. As long as they were around them, there was no need to worry about the sixth-class vicious beasts. Naturally, the two of them would take care of the mid-sixth-class vicious beasts and above. The beginner sixth-class vicious beasts were all killed by the three-star hunters. They only needed to kill the fifth-class vicious beasts. On the southeast battlefield, more than 50,000 people were plunged into a sea of blood. Countless vicious beasts were killed, and the human heroes were severely injured. The ground was stained with blood. Countless vicious beasts fell into pools of blood, and the blood flowed like a river. The strong corrosiveness was unbearable even for Tao masters. Many were directly poisoned to death by the venom. Not even their bones were left. Gu Qingyu and the others were all severely injured, but they gritted their teeth and held on. If they did not save themselves now, no one would help them. Yi Qinghan came from afar, and the vicious beasts on the periphery immediately pounced on him. Buzz! The sound of the zither reverberated, and a wisp of killing intent seized people's souls and suppressed the souls of the vicious beasts. He paused, and a flash of saber light directly suppressed their vitality. Swoosh! 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 He slashed more than 10 times. Dozens of vicious beasts' heads were thrown up, and their running bodies crashed to the ground. The saber light flashed again, and the demonic cores were taken out. Emperor Yi waved his hand, and all the demonic cores flew to them. Their points quickly went from 0 to 100. Kill! Yi Qinghan found Gu Qingyu and the others. He moved forward with his saber. It was heavy and sharp, and even without the vital essence, it could smash the vicious beasts to death. Everywhere he passed, there was not a single enemy. A super powerhouse could change the course of a battle. Yi Qinghan was not a super existence, but he was crazy enough and tyrannical enough. The 7-foot crazy saber could even cut through the bones of 5th-rank vicious beasts. A single slash was enough to suppress and kill 2 vicious beasts. The vicious beasts in the surroundings began to retreat. They roared continuously, affecting the vicious beasts' killing intent. Brother Yi is here. Hold on. Gu Qingyu roared. His solitary sword Dao was fierce and tyrannical, killing until his entire body was covered in blood. Swoosh! Swoosh! Brilliant sword light broke through the void, carving out a bloody path, wanting to converge with Yi Qinghan. Suppress! A page of scripture turned into a divine weapon, crushing the bones of the vicious beasts. The earth was suppressed and caved in. Lin Wuxian specialized in killing the wounded vicious beasts. It was extremely dangerous, but he could turn misfortune into fortune every time. His combat skills were rapidly improving, and his body was also strengthened by a lot. In this kind of battlefield, as long as one could survive, they would be an elite. Roar! A 5th-rank vicious beast's fangs pierced through the corpse of a powerhouse and pounced toward Yi Qinghan. Along the way, the heroes all dodged, not daring to resist. Boom! Yi Qinghan crossed his legs and held the saber with both hands, forcibly tearing apart the momentum of heaven and earth. He raised the saber, and the immortal sex Taoist robe awakened. His momentum was like that of a war god, as if he could split heaven and earth. The surrounding spiritual energy was sucked dry. Whing! The sound of the zither was restless, as if the space was rioting. The great Tao of heaven and earth wailed, and the phantom of a divine dragon crossed time and space, cruising in the air, suppressing the 9 heavens. It was as if countless great emperors had fallen, and the austere aura drilled into everyone's consciousness. Even the demonic beasts were stunned on the spot. Tian Gongshan's pupils shrank. He had never heard such a terrifying zither song, so shocking that his blood and qi were boiling. He lost control of his vital essence and began to roar. Crazy attack. 1 slash to seize the gods. Open for me. Boom, boom, boom. No matter how stable the space was, it could not withstand the bombardment of crazy attack. Without the saber radiance, Yi Qinghan charged 100 meters away with his saber, using the space law to the extreme. The fifth-rank vicious beast's reaction was extremely fast. Even if its soul was suppressed by Emperor Ye's zither music for a moment, it quickly broke free. Its huge eyes saw crazy attack coming at its neck, and its body retreated, using its horns to block the crazy attack. Yi Qinghan stood upright and crazy attack pulled out a flame, ruthlessly striking the beast's tough horns. He crossed his legs, exerted force from his waist, and a force of 10 million jin erupted, almost severing its horns. The power that could shatter heaven and earth directly sent the beast, which weighed dozens of tons, flying, creating a deep trench along the ground. More than 10 vicious beasts were sent flying, and the human powerhouse's hair stood on end. How much strength did it take to send a fifth-rank vicious beast flying hundreds of meters? When the situation changed, it was time to counterattack. Chapter 208. Roar. The ferocious beast roared. It was dizzy and its consciousness was in a mess. As soon as it got up, it stumbled and fell to the ground again. Buzz. 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 Emperor Ye's celestial dipper glove came back to life. Golden light shone brightly as his 10 fingers strummed the 9 strings of the guqin. His ruthless aura was filled with killing intent, giving people a feeling of being ambushed from all sides. The experts were shocked, and the ferocious beasts roared. Kill! Yi Qinghan pounced on the 5th-grade ferocious beast. Now was the time to fight for points. A 6th-grade ferocious beast was not something he could fight against, so he could only kill the 5th-grade ferocious beast. One was worth more than 100 points. His aura was like a rainbow, making everyone's blood boil. Swoosh! The 12 styles of the flying blade were like dragons in water, stirring up monstrous waves. A roar shook the blood of thousands of experts. Kill! Kill! Tens of thousands of experts joined forces, and their aura was like a rainbow. The ancient space changed color, and blood rained down from the sky. Tian Gongshen looked at Yi Qinghan deeply and then turned to look at the end of the void. He frowned and his Tao heart was beating rapidly. He knew that things were not going well. This space was no longer under the control of the ancient massacre god. It was controlled by the thousands of races. They were waiting for the hunter's trial to capture all the geniuses in one fell swoop. The ancient massacre god controlled far more ancient spaces. There were at least a few thousand of them. If other spaces were controlled as well, the human race would suffer immeasurable losses. However, the ancient space was so stable that it could not be torn apart unless one was a half-stepped great emperor. Tian Gongshen could not contact the outside world at all. He could only wait for the space to open in a month. However, based on the current situation, could he really hold out until a month later? Even if he could, what about the other ancient spaces? What should I do? Now, the thousands of races must be sending beasts to exhaust the elites. Once the spirit race appears, it will be difficult to hold on. Nangongshan thought to himself. However, his eyes did not leave the end of the void, as if a terrifying existence would appear at any time. Brother Lin, please release the suppression and kill the ferocious beasts with all your might. Now is not the time to train. Nangongshan's voice was low and melodious, echoing into the distance. Okay. Lin Aoqiong's aura was so strong that it felt like he had just woken up from the ancient times. Lin Aoqiong's aura was so strong that it could take the sky away from him. His cultivation level continued to climb. From the Grand Marshal Honored Realm, he had entered the beginner level of the Immortal Gate. Then, he had reached the intermediate level of the Immortal Gate. His terrifying eyes pierced through the sky and scanned the ancient space. His will alone was enough to crush several low-level 5th-rank ferocious beasts. Lin Aoqiong grabbed in the air and pulled out an ancient tree from the ground. With a gentle shake, the tree turned into tens of thousands of sharp swords. With a push of his palms, the tens of thousands of swords pierced through the bodies of countless beasts. Roar! 10,000 beasts roared angrily. They fell into pools of blood and struggled frantically, but they were nailed to death by wooden swords one after another. Blood flowed out like streams, shocking everyone to the point that their fine hairs stood on end. This was the battle prowess of an emperor. At this level, numbers could no longer determine victory or defeat. Only true combat strength could determine victory or defeat. Kill. At this point, it would be stupid not to kill. Everyone was stunned for a moment before they came to their senses. They focused on killing the ferocious beasts that were severely injured. Almost every person killed a ferocious beast with a sword. They fought for the demonic cores crazily. In an instant, hundreds of people had accumulated more than 1,000 points. Lin Wuxian transformed into a sharp sword and killed more than 10 ferocious beasts that were severely injured. His body was bathed in blood and his body was being refined crazily. However, his eyes were fixed on Lin Aoqiong. He was stunned by his unparalleled battle prowess, but it also stimulated his endless battle intent. Gu Qingyu held the golden bone sword and comprehended the profound meaning of Lin Aoqiong's sword. Yi Qinghan killed the ferocious beasts while comprehending the spatial laws. Once he reached the minor completion realm, he would be able to forcibly absorb the gold origin from the jade pendant. Comprehending the spatial laws while fighting was tiring, but the speed of improvement was not to be underestimated. Using the spatial laws went from inexperienced to proficient, and from proficient to handy. Swoosh! Yi Qinghan looked at a top-tier rank 5 ferocious beast 100 meters away. Its bloodline was not high, but its combat strength was unparalleled. With a slash, the saber appeared 100 meters away in an instant and cut off the ferocious beast's neck. The ferocious beast's eyes were filled with fear before it died. It did not know how Yi Qinghan could be so fast. Emperor Yi played the guqin to suppress the ferocious beast's blood and qi, but it also stimulated the battle intent of the heroes. Lin Aoqiong danced to the music and swung his sword again. His natal divine weapon slashed out countless sword shadows, each of which was filled with murderous intent. His speed was completely beyond the comprehension of the crowd. Swoosh! Although it was just a single slash, it killed thousands of rank 5 ferocious beasts in an instant. With a flick of his sword, thousands of demonic cores were suspended in the void and were taken away by him. No one dared to snatch them. 30,000 points. No one could touch his points. Even the top 10 combined did not have as many points as him. He was an existence worthy of respect. Yi Qinghan killed hundreds of ferocious beasts and used the space rule hundreds of times consecutively. His face was pale. Emperor Yi could not take it anymore and started to retreat slowly. His blood-red robe fluttered in the wind. He turned into a demon and glared at the ferocious beasts. The ferocious beasts did not dare to look at him and started to look for other humans. Lin Aoqiong went on a killing spree. None of the rank 6 ferocious beasts could withstand a single blow from him. Roar! One of the ferocious beasts seemed to be intelligent. With a roar, the remaining ferocious beasts retreated. Boundless sword path, flying flowers are swords. Lin Aoqiong formed a seal with his palms and manipulated everything in the space. A drop of blood became a sword, and thousands of leaves became divine swords. They hung in the sky like divine swords, ready to strike at any time. Go! Whoosh, 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 swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Countless swords rained down on the ferocious beasts. Blood gushed out like a sea, and the sky was dyed red. Godslayer, unsheath. Hum. A divine weapon was awakened and hung above Lin Aoqiong's head. When the sword was unsheathed, a rainbow pierced through the sky and lit up the sky. The ancient space became hell, and corpses were everywhere. Eerie white bones rose and fell with the waves of blood. Kill! The divine sword pierced through the river and turned into a dragon that was thousands of miles long. It swam in the sky and wrapped around countless ferocious beasts. The dragon opened its mouth and swallowed 10,000 ferocious beasts. The most powerful and domineering sword chi shattered their flesh and blood into nothingness. Only tens of thousands of demonic cores were left hanging in the air. Everyone held their breath. This was not a battle between humans. It was a battle between gods. Many people's hearts were shattered. Their eyes were filled with despair. Who could surpass such beings? Lin Aoqiong's understanding of swordsmanship had reached the peak. With a wave of his hand, he could control the origin of all techniques. More than half of the ferocious beasts broke free. They were terrified and did not dare to fight back. Don't chase after a cornered enemy. Find a clean place to heal your wounds. In a day at most, there will be an even more terrifying battle. Nangongshen said in a low voice. What's going on? Isn't this an experiential learning assessment? Why are there so many 6th-grade ferocious beasts? A very powerful man with a sharp sword stood out. His body was shackled. Even though he was severely injured, he was still unyielding. He was furious. More than 100,000 people had entered, and 1/10 of them had died on the first day. How was this an assessment? This was clearly a suicide mission. Dugu Badian. He was the most powerful being among the younger generation of the sovereign domain. Only he dared to question Nangongshen. He was eccentric and did not distinguish between good and evil. With a sword in hand, he only wished to defeat the heavens. No matter who his opponent was, he would defeat them with a single strike. At this moment, he was ranked second only to Lin Aoqiong. He had already reached 10,000 points. His realm was suppressed to Greater Martial Venerable, but he was far ahead of the others. Gu Qingyu had to admit that no matter how talented he was, he could not be compared to the disciples of the ancient families. At least, he could not be compared to them in the early stages. As for the later stages, it was unknown. The space is no longer under the control of the ancient massacre god. It is controlled by the 10,000 races. Now is not the time to question me. I can't give you an explanation. What you can do now is to quickly recover your strength and fight with me later. The real ferocious beasts in human form and even the real spiritual beasts in human form. Their intelligence is not inferior to ours and their combat power is even more terrifying. The death trial has not started yet. Nangongshen looked down at the crowd and said in a low voice. What? The crowd was shocked. Were they being surrounded by the 10,000 races? Yi Qinghan knew that something was wrong when he came out. He was too lazy to ask any more questions. He swallowed a large number of spiritual pills to recover his true essence. The more strength he had, the more likely he would be able to survive. The people of the crazy sect did not say anything. Shegu even sat on the ground and used spiritual pills to recover his consciousness. At this moment, Yi Lingyu came over with Yi Jianmo. Seeing the group of people recovering, he also started to use spiritual pills to recover. Half an hour later, Yi Qinghan felt that his realm was loosening. He had a chance to break through to the middle level of Tao Master. He could not help but smile. Now that he had broken through to the next level, he had a greater chance to protect himself. Maybe his soul could enter the immortal realm. At that time, the profound meaning of the law of space would be more powerful and his attack range might be more than 1,000 meters. Brother Yi, I didn't expect you to come for the assessment. Didn't the Tianji sect predict the crisis this time? Yi Qinghan looked at Yi Jianma and could not help but be curious. The elders of the Tianji sect should have divined this kind of experience. How could they make such a big mistake? Grandpa did not predict that there would be a situation here. But he said that if I participate in the assessment, I only have a slim chance of survival. If I can turn the misfortune into a blessing, it might even affect my fate. So I want to try my best to change my fate. Yi Jianma stared at Yi Qinghan and a light flashed in her eyes. She said lightly, I think the chance of survival may lie with you too, so I asked my brother to come to you. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and said to himself, the Tianji dragon said there was only a slim chance of survival. It seems that this time it is really dangerous. I want to break through to the middle level of Tao Master. Since you think the chance of survival lies with me, let's make a bet. I'll use a upper grade 5th grade spiritual pill to exchange for your life. What do you think? Yi Qinghan stared at the two of them. What he needed now was a spiritual pill. With a spiritual pill, he could advance quickly. Now, in order to save his life, he had to make a deal. In the end, he would do his best to help her. Humph, like master, like pet. I thought that bitch bird would take the opportunity to blackmail me. I didn't expect that you would blackmail me. Yi Jianma snorted and was very dissatisfied. I'm dizzy. I didn't even come out to speak, but you scolded me. You deserve your fate. The parrot rushed out of Yi Qinghan's body and said innocently. The parrot knew that it was dangerous, so it had been hiding in Yi Qinghan's body and only dared to come out now. At this moment, it looked around and could not help shivering. Then it whispered, Master, it's too dangerous here. I can feel that death is coming. Let's go quickly. Chapter 209. The parrot's perception of danger was very accurate. As soon as it sensed death approaching, it immediately prepared to flee. This is a sealed ancient space. Where do you want me to go? To the 10,000 races territory? Yi Qinghan asked. Ah, then I'm finished. This divine bird can already see the god of death descending. The parrot was frightened. It looked towards the horizon, trembling all over. If you want to escape, then help me find some precious spirit medicine. Once I break through, you'll have a chance to live. Yi Qinghan stared at the parrot. It was impossible that this ancient space didn't have a precious medicine that surpassed the 5th grade. It all depended on whether or not this lowly bird was willing to look for it, or whether or not it dared to take the risk. Don't joke around. This broken space is like hell. Outside of blood and bones, where would there be? The parrot looked around, disgusted with the environment. There wasn't much spiritual energy here, and the vicious beasts here didn't have any intelligence. They were all greedy and bloodthirsty creatures. But halfway through its sentence, the parrot suddenly shut its mouth. Its eyes flashed, and it transmitted its voice to Yi Qinghan. Master, your luck is good. There really is a treasure here. Where is it? What grade? If it's the 4th grade, then don't waste my time. Yi Qinghan glanced at the parrot and whispered. It's too far away. I can't tell what grade it is, but I know it's definitely a treasure that surpasses the 5th grade. I'm afraid it's even older than your ancestors. The parrot said excitedly. Yi Qinghan nodded and said to Gu Qingyu and the others, I'll leave for a while. You follow the crowd. If there's any danger, call me back through the communication talisman. Everyone nodded and didn't say anything. With Yi Qinghan's fighting strength, as long as he wasn't surrounded by vicious beasts, he would definitely be able to escape. Under the leadership of the two supreme powerhouses, the large group moved into the distance. The smell of blood here was too strong, making it impossible for them to cultivate in peace. In the ancient space at night, other than the blood-red radiance, this place looked like hell. It was bright red with towering ancient trees that pierced the clouds and endless mountain ranges. The atmosphere was magnificent, as if they had returned to the ancient era where heroes roamed about and 10,000 races worked together. Yi Qinghan took advantage of the chaos to disappear into the darkness with Emperor Yi and the parrot. His speed was incredible, and his profound understanding of the laws of space allowed him to appear several thousand kilometers away in a short period of time. Nangongshan had just calmed everyone down and wanted to find Yi Qinghan, but he found that Yi Qinghan had disappeared again. He frowned and thought to himself, why does this guy disappear like a ghost? He's only at the junior level of Tao Master, but I can't sense his aura. Out of desperation, Nangongshan could only find a few particularly powerful existences to discuss a strategy. Those who could participate in the discussion were all the most terrifying existences of the younger generation. Lin Aoqiong, Dugu Badian, and Xiao Yuni. Dugu Badian and Xiao Yuni had suppressed their realms and changed their appearances to train here. Although they did not have the imperial bloodline, their cultivation was not inferior to theirs. This time, they're obviously targeting the younger generation. I think the myriad tribes must have sent young king bloodline warriors. If 5 or 6 of them come, it'll be fine. If there are more than 10 of them, we'll be in danger. Nangongshan said in a low voice. King bloodline warriors were equivalent to the chief disciples of the top human forces. Their bloodline was noble, and some of them were even on par with the imperial bloodline. However, their vitality was very strong, and their lifespan was much longer than humans of the same level. Therefore, even the youngest king bloodline warrior was close to 1,000 years old. His cultivation was no different from that of the imperial bloodline, and his combat strength might be even higher. We'll kill whoever comes. I don't believe that the myriad tribes would dare to send someone of the divine martial realm to kill us, unless they want to shed all pretense of cordiality and start a full-scale war. Xiao Yuni said. His realm had recovered, and his combat strength was no weaker than Lin Aoqiong's. Dugu Badian held the inverted bone sword. His eyes were like stars, and his back was facing the crowd. He looked down at the sky, and he was so cold that he did not want to say a word. The sword was like the person. The inverted bone sword represented Dugu Badian's character. He had the inverted bone sword, and he was arrogant and unruly. He only had himself in his eyes, and he did not even care about the heavens. Lin Aoqiong was indifferent. He tapped his divine weapon with his fingertips, and a proud smile appeared on his face. In his opinion, so what if there were more than 10 king bloodline warriors? With one strike, no one in the same realm could stop him. Nangongshan sneered. These young people had never participated in a real life or death battle, so they did not understand the terror of king bloodline warriors. He himself was also of the imperial bloodline, and he was an imperial bloodline warrior. How could he not be arrogant? However, he had faced king bloodline warriors of the myriad tribes, and there was not much difference between him and an imperial bloodline warrior. You'll know when they appear. The universe is vast, and it's not something that juniors like us can understand. King bloodline warriors are blessed by nature, and their talents are extraordinary. Some of the king bloodline warriors have the Qilin bloodline, while others have the ancient poisonous blood. Once you touch them, you'll die. I hope you can maintain your attitude and not underestimate the world. Nangongshan warned coldly. So what? In my eyes, even if there are tens of thousands of people of the same realm, they are nothing but fleeting clouds. They can't even withstand a single blow. Dugu Badian's killing intent surged. He did not want to suppress his realm anymore. His qi and blood burned, and it shook the 9 heavens and caused the ancient space to tremble. An austere aura covered a radius of 10,000 miles. The wounds on his body quickly healed, and golden blood surged in his body. It was extremely terrifying. Lin Aoqiong narrowed his eyes and looked at Dugu Badian. Battle intent surged in his eyes. His fingertips moved the scabbard, and the sword's whistling sound turned into a dragon's roar that pierced through 10,000 miles. If it were not for the fact that this was not a suitable time for a big battle, he would have definitely fought with him. Nangongshan was the oldest, and he did not want to say much to them. At this time, only the appearance of king bloodline warriors could unite the human race. Sigh, if king bloodline warriors were so easy to deal with, why would the human race be so weak for so many eras? Nangong Shen shook his head and smiled bitterly. His lonely figure was filled with vicissitudes. He had struggled for hundreds of years, but he was only a 4-star hunter. He was still far away from proving his Tao. Now, a golden era was about to begin. He did not know whether it was a blessing or a curse. Late at night, the experts of the myriad tribes did not appear. Everyone spent the night worrying. They were mentally exhausted, but they did not dare to sleep. The king-level ferocious beasts seemed to be doing it on purpose. They did not appear until dawn. They were exhausting the energy of the human experts. From time to time, they would send unintelligent ferocious beasts to kill them. Every time, the ferocious beasts would leave behind thousands of corpses and flee. The myriad tribes did not have many things, but they had many such ferocious beasts. They did not care about casualties, but the human race could not withstand such exhaustion. They could hold on for 1 day, but could they hold on for 3 days? Late at night the next day, the human experts were extremely exhausted. They could not bear it anymore and wanted to meditate. However, the king-level bloodline warriors appeared. 5 king-level bloodline warriors, just as Nangongshan had said, were extremely powerful. They fought Lin Aoqiong and the others head-on. Their fight was earth-shattering, and the human experts were stained with blood. Lin Aoqiong was powerful. His speed almost broke through time and space. The king-level bloodline warriors were forced to retreat. They were forced to reveal their true forms. Their huge bodies covered the sky. They waved their forelimbs, and in an instant, they pulled up a mountain and smashed it toward Lin Aoqiong. Whoosh! The divine sword was unsheathed. The god-slaying sword Qi shattered the lonely mountain. Everything could be transformed into divine weapons. They attacked the king-level beasts from all directions. Dugu Badian was indeed a reverse bone master. He relied solely on the reverse bone sword and his physical body to be unparalleled. He killed the humanoid king-level bloodline warriors until their souls were stained with blood. His physical body could withstand the opponent's full-force attack. His body was made of iron, and he bathed in blood. He did not seek victory, but defeat. Xiao Yuni was dealing with a king-level bloodline leader. Although he could not defeat him, he could delay him. He was buying time for the other human experts. Nangong Shen was the strongest. He blocked 2 king-level bloodline warriors and forced them to retreat. He suppressed them with a palm strike, and their bodies were shattered. Their flesh and blood splattered everywhere. However, their vitality was so strong that they recovered in the blink of an eye. The human race was excited. It was good that they could kill the king-level bloodline warriors. However, the void trembled again. 3 more king-level bloodline warriors came from afar. They had all transformed into human form. Are the myriad tribes going to fight us to the death? Everyone was in a difficult situation. They fought desperately to kill the ordinary rank 5 ferocious beasts. Die! Lin Aoqiong, Dugu Badian, and the others were furious. Their killing intent was almost tangible. They launched their strongest attacks, wanting to kill the king-level bloodline warriors in front of them. Roar! The 5 king-level bloodline warriors all revealed their true forms. One was a tiger king, one was a dragon king, one was an eagle king, and 2 were giant bears. They fought back madly. Their bodies were pierced by the sword Qi, and blood flowed freely. Hum! Boom! The sword Qi released by the 3 experts pierced through the sky and shot into the distance. The king-level bloodline warriors roared. Their bodies were pierced, and they were seriously injured. The 3 king-level bloodline warriors behind them took advantage of the fact that the human race's sword Qi was not over yet. They were unable to gather their strength. A dragon king swung its giant tail and smashed it at the 3 of them. An even stronger Eagle King showed its sharp claws and tore at Lin Aoqiong's head. Even the void was pierced. Roar! An unknown roar shook the mountains and rivers. The myriad beasts, who had the upper hand, retreated under the lead of the king-level bloodline warriors. Nangongshen's face was gloomy. His eyes saw through the shackles and looked to the end. He clenched his iron fists and said coldly, "When did these bastards learn to be smart? How dare they play mind games with me? What bloodline did that roar come from?" Xiao Yuni asked in a low voice. He could feel that the first few king-level bloodline warriors were not strong at all. They were probably the weakest among the myriad beasts. They were only here to exhaust their combat power. The ferocious beast that roared and ordered them to retreat was the most terrifying one. Qilin Tiger. It is a hybrid between the emperor-level divine beast Qilin and the sacred beast White Tiger. Once its bloodline is restored, it will definitely reach the top of the 9 heavens. Nangongshen said in a low voice. 10 years ago, I fought with it. The Qilin bloodline and the White Tiger bloodline in its bloodline are very strong. Its combat power is extraordinary. Even after I awakened the Heavenly Palace divine blood, I only managed to injure it. 10 years later, its combat power will be even more shocking. If it is baptized by the Qilin bloodline and the White Tiger bloodline, we will all die here. It was not that Nangongshen was pessimistic. Creatures that had been baptized by the blood of emperor-level divine beasts, even a rabbit, could cause the myriad beasts to tremble. Not to mention a king-level existence like this. Everyone's faces were ugly. Even Gu Qingyu, who had a strong will, felt that he could not fight anymore. If they did not rest, the next battle would be very dangerous. Chapter 210. The ancient space at night was filled with danger zones. A 7-colored snake, capable of killing a 6th-rank beast, was currently blocking Yi Qinghan's path with its forked tongue. The parrot's feathers exploded. This type of snake was as fast as lightning. When it moved, it was impossible to dodge. Quick, kill it. Kill this little worm. It's disgusting to watch. Yi Qinghan held his saber and suppressed the snake. It didn't dare to move as they confronted each other in the swamp. The swamp's gravity was extremely strong. Once trapped, even 6th-rank beasts couldn't escape. The swamp was filled with shrubs and poisonous snakes. Black bones could be seen everywhere like dead wood. Clearly, they had all died from poison. The law of gravity descended. A black origin dragon formed in front of Yi Qinghan. It glared at the snake and forced it to retreat. The venomous snake retreated and disappeared without a trace in an instant. Yi Qinghan sucked in a breath of cold air. Only now did he realize how terrifying the speed of this venomous snake was. Once it crossed the 6th rank, it would definitely be able to kill an immortal sect expert in an instant. Fuck, there's actually a 7-colored snake here. Damn it, I hate these small snakes the most. They're freakishly fast. The parrot was still unsettled and cursed. Yi Qinghan was indifferent. He stepped on the swamp and moved forward. The black dragon formed from the water and darkness elements coiled around his body. He was especially careful. Poisonous snakes constantly slithered through the shrubs. They were astonishingly fast and disappeared in a flash. More and more corpses appeared. Some of the stronger corpses were still glowing with a golden light. One could imagine how powerful the owners of these corpses were when they were alive. Are you sure there's a treasure here? Why do I feel like this is a land of death? Yi Qinghan was solemn. The deeper they went, the stronger the killing intent. One could imagine how dangerous this swamp was. It was definitely not a place where a Tao master could enter. There's a treasure here. But it's also very dangerous. Why don't we retreat? The parrot murmured and looked into the depths. It was somewhat timid. Since there's a treasure and we're already here, I shouldn't give up halfway. Yi Qinghan was resolute. He gripped his saber and walked into the depths. Groan, the sound of the zither was graceful, like the sound of nature, extremely pleasing to the ear. It was as if this was the only sound left in the world, and there was no other sound. Even the poisonous snake was unwilling to move, quietly listening to the most beautiful melody in the world. After the killing intent dispersed, Yi Qinghan quickly advanced. His clothes danced in the wind as he covered 1,000 meters with each step. He was becoming increasingly proficient in the spatial laws. His stellar transposition had almost reached the level of form displacement. The swamp was endless, as if it extended to the end of space. It was full of danger, and a lonely figure grew longer and longer against the backdrop of the red clouds. A melodious melody pierced through space and drifted into the distance. They had traveled more than 30,000 miles, used the laws of space, and spent a day and a night. From this, it could be seen just how dangerous it was inside. Finally, a mountain range that connected the heavens appeared in front of them. It was as if a golden dragon was raising its head, about to take to the heavens. The mountain range was majestic and majestic. 5-colored immortal energy pervaded the air, making one yearn for it. If one really thought that this was an immortal realm, then they would be gravely mistaken. The 5-colored fog was definitely not immortal energy, but rather the miasma formed from 10,000-year-old poison. It could definitely poison an existence of the divine martial realm to death. Strands of emperors might drifted into the distance, suppressing the heavens. Although they were few in number, they attracted Yi Qinghan's attention. Did a great emperor appear here? The parrot was frightened, and its eyes widened as it looked at the distant mountain range. No. It came from a corpse in a corner of the mountain range. A half-step great emperor has died here. Emperor Yi said in a deep voice, emphasizing every word. Impossible. Even a fake great emperor couldn't have died here. The parrot was shocked. Great emperor-level existences were existences that could only be looked up to. Let's go and take a look. Yi Qinghan's eyes shot out golden light. He clenched the sword frenzy, extremely daring. Below the mountain range, there was a withered corpse that had been dead for an unknown number of years. However, its body was not damaged. Its black hair swayed in the wind, and its emperor's robes emitted waves of emperor's might. Countless years had not destroyed the traces of its existence. 300 meters away from the corpse, there was the corpse of a 9-colored snake about 3 meters long. Its head was pierced through, and there was no sign of life. Yi Qinghan stood more than 100 meters away, not daring to get any closer. He stared at the corpse, his Tao heart trembling. He felt that the strand of black hair was enough to suppress the experts of the immortal sect. The withered flesh and blood contained countless laws and Tao arts. Even after 10,000 years, the corporeal body would not be destroyed. Fake Great Emperor. This level was simply too powerful. Even a divine martial realm expert's body would not be able to withstand the corrosion of the poison here. It would rot after 2 or 3 years, and after 10 years, not even bones would be left. However, a fake great emperor's corpse could be preserved for tens of thousands of years. No one knew which era this powerful fake great emperor was from. The ancient space was endless. Even a great emperor would not have the time to search every corner. The swamp outside was boundless and extremely dangerous. Therefore, this great emperor's corpse was buried here for countless eras and no one discovered it. Yi Qinghan looked at the 9-colored snake's corpse. Its body was covered in wounds, all of which were fatal. It was damaged by the emperor's laws and could not be healed. In the end, it was able to perish together with the fake great emperor. One had to admit that this poisonous snake was extremely powerful. Looking around, Yi Qinghan found that there were no other creatures that could survive here. He gritted his teeth and endured the mighty emperor's might. He walked towards the corpse of the great emperor and the 9-colored snake. Master, let's not play with fire. It's the great emperor's corpse. Even if it doesn't have any signs of life, if we get too close, the corpse can kill us instantly. The parrot was shocked. It grabbed Yi Qinghan's shoulder tightly, wanting to pull him back. Emperor's robes. Even if it's at the beginning of the 8th grade, it can make us invincible among the younger generation. It's a pity to give it up like this. Yi Qinghan stood between the 9-colored snake and the great emperor's corpse, his eyes flashing. Fuck, I don't want to die. The emperor's might cannot be offended. Since ancient times, even if the great emperor's corpse is offended, a wisp of its might can kill us instantly. The parrot's feathers stood up and it glared at Yi Qinghan. It turned out that it was not the worst. Master was the worst. He even dared to have ideas about the great emperor's corpse. Sigh, the great emperor's corpse cannot be desecrated. What about the 9-colored snake's corpse? It hasn't transformed, so it shouldn't be a problem, right? Yi Qinghan was extremely reluctant. The emperor's robes were the most precious treasures of the human race. Some families that had existed since ancient times would have one. When the human race was threatened, they would use it. Once it was born, it would cause the world to collapse. When the emperor's son wore the emperor's robes, even if he was at the divine martial realm, he was no different from a fake great emperor. It can even poison a fake emperor to death. Master, let's go. The parrot looked around and was very puzzled. It said curiously, I can clearly feel that there is a treasure here. Why is it that the closer we get, the more I can't feel it? The parrot was afraid of death and wanted to leave. However, Yi Qinghan was unwilling. The great emperor's corpse was placed in front of him and he couldn't touch it. If he didn't even dare to touch the corpse of an 8th-grade vicious beast, then how could he cultivate the great Tao? If you're afraid of death, then hide further away. This 9-colored snake is mine. Moreover, even if we can't desecrate the great emperor's corpse, we can at least let it rest in peace. We fought for the human race. We shouldn't let our corpses be buried in the wilderness. Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. Fine. If you die, then I'll definitely die too. I'll accompany you. Perhaps there will be an opportunity. The parrot stared at the great emperor's corpse and said in a serious voice. Yi Qinghan put away the heavy wild blade and formed seals with his palms. He respectfully walked towards the great emperor's corpse. The emperor's robes surged as if there was a reaction. As he approached the great emperor's corpse, Yi Qinghan stared at the fake great emperor. Even though it had been dead for countless years, it was still vivid and incomparably dignified. Mighty great emperor, Junior Yi Qinghan is passing by. I really can't bear to see your corpse buried in the wilderness. I'm begging you now. If you or the emperor's robes have a spirit, please allow Junior to bury you. Yi Qinghan knelt. This was out of respect and not out of submission. An ancestor who had died in battle for the human race was worthy of kneeling. Hua hua hua. The emperor's robes danced in the void as the great emperor's corpse floated up. There was actually a blood-colored lingji below the corpse. It was the great emperor's blood that had gathered countless essences. After tens of thousands of years, it had grown into a blood corpse lingji. The parrot and Yi Qinghan trembled. They were so shocked that they couldn't speak. The emperor's robes had a spirit. They didn't want their master's corpse to lie in the wilderness for countless years. They could see that Yi Qinghan was respectfully bestowing a great karmic fate upon it. The blood corpse lingji contained great emperor's blood and had long since comprehended the great Tao laws. It wanted to fly into the sky. The emperor's robes surged and strands of great emperor's aura suppressed the heavens, suppressing the blood corpse lingji so much that it couldn't move. Yi Qinghan was excited. He didn't immediately take the blood corpse lingji. Instead, he madly rushed towards the mountain range. His true essence was vast and mighty. It wrapped around his golden body and blocked the poisonous gas. He hacked apart a giant ancient tree and made it into a wooden coffin. He carried the coffin forward and placed it about 10 meters in front of the great emperor's corpse. Then, he respectfully said, "Great Emperor, please enter the coffin. Junior will definitely send you to the ancestral land so that you can rest in peace." The great emperor's corpse erupted with golden light and great emperor's aura was rich to the extreme. The emperor's robes surged for 10,000 miles and 10,000 laws wailed. However, it didn't enter the coffin. Instead, it captured the blood corpse Lingji in the air and sent it into Yi Qinghan's hands. The blood corpse Lingji was fragrant and contained the essence of great emperor's blood. It had been accumulating for tens of thousands of years. If it wasn't for the great emperor's corpse's suppression, it would have already transformed and flew into the sky. Yi Qinghan looked at the blood corpse Lingji with golden light flashing in his eyes. He clenched his fists and deeply bowed towards the great emperor's corpse. The great emperor's corpse flew over Yi Qinghan's head. A large hole appeared on his back and 2 fangs were nailed to the great emperor's corpse. They were clearly the fangs of the 9-colored snake. Is he really a fake great emperor? Can a fake great emperor's robe have a spirit? Can it exist for eternity? The parrot was aghast. It looked at the great emperor's corpse again and couldn't help but tremble. Its eyes were full of reverence. Yi Qinghan was also puzzled. If he was a true emperor, how could the 9-colored snake poison him to death? Unless there was something strange about his death, the fatal wound wasn't on his back. The great emperor's corpse entered the coffin and automatically sealed the coffin. The surroundings were filled with golden light as the great emperor's aura formed the coffin. It became extremely majestic. Then, its aura was withdrawn and it became completely quiet. Yi Qinghan was still excited. He looked at the blood corpse Lingji in his hand and could feel that it wanted to escape. He clenched his fists tightly, afraid that it would fly away. "Son, come down. You and I will divide this supreme treasure. Comprehend the Grand Tao's laws and the origin. Seize this opportunity. This will be the first step to our transformation." Yi Qinghan was extremely excited. He felt that even if he had a mortal body, he could still enter the Imperial Prince level. He might even surpass them. He took out the Enlightenment Godly Lotus. Its light illuminated 1,000 miles. The Grand Tao's runes appeared. Myriad laws gathered and the origin descended. The blood corpse Lingji calmed down. Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged on the ground as the godly lotus spiraled in the void. Emperor Ye's eyes were as dazzling as jewels. His limpid eyes were enough to shatter the shackles of space. His black hair fluttered in the wind as his 4 wings spread out on their own. Chapter 211. Below the mountain range, divine energy shot out in all directions, illuminating thousands of miles. The treasured light made the 2 of them look like the son and daughter of a god. Yi Qinghan divided the bloody corpse Lingji into 5 portions. He gave the 2 largest portions to Emperor Yi and then threw a small piece to the parrot. The parrot was so happy that it couldn't close its mouth. Purple light covered the sky, and the fragrance of Emperor's blood assailed the nostrils. It contained endless laws and great Tao origins. These laws and great Tao origins had already taken shape. As long as there was time, one could comprehend them. With the Enlightenment Divine Lotus, one could increase one's comprehension of great Tao origins. Now, with the formed laws and great Tao origins, it was even easier. Yi Qinghan stood on the shoulder of a giant and looked down on all living things. This was even more advantageous than having an imperial bloodline. After swallowing a piece of the bloody corpse Lingji, the emperor's blood essence rushed through his limbs and bones. His blood boiled, and there were signs of evolution. His blood turned from pale gold to golden yellow, and slowly to dark gold. The terrifying blood essence tempered the golden body. The great Tao origins and great Tao origins gathered around the golden body. Yi Qinghan opened his eyes and pierced through the shackles. His mental energy instantly pierced through the folds of space. With a thought, he traveled thousands of miles and returned to his original position. The parrot's pupils shrank, and it cried out, "So fast. Did he leave?" There were 3,000 minor Daos, but only 6 great Daos, the Reincarnation Great Tao, the Chaos Great Tao, the Yin-Yang Great Tao, the Destruction Great Tao, the Order Great Tao, and the Yin-Yang Great Tao. It was difficult for a person to comprehend a single Great Tao in their lifetime. Even great emperors could only comprehend a single Great Tao and become invincible under the heavens. They could kill supreme existences with a single gaze. A Great Tao appeared in front of Yi Qinghan. It was the Destruction Great Tao. It was complete, without any flaws. This Great Tao proved that the Great Emperor buried in the wooden coffin was a true Great Emperor, not a fake Great Emperor, nor a Great Emperor. Who is this Great Emperor? Since the beginning of the Desolate Era, the number of Great Emperors that have been born can be counted on one hand. How could a Great Emperor have mysteriously fallen in this ancient space? There is definitely more than one Emperor corpse here. Where is the other one? Yi Qinghan's hair stood on end as he gazed into the depths of the mountain range. He had an inexplicable premonition that this great emperor's corpse was most likely a great emperor from the primordial era. It was not recorded by the human race, not even in the Divine Martial Imperial Codex. Otherwise, the Divine Martial Imperial Codex would have a great reaction upon seeing this great emperor's corpse. A corpse could travel through several great eras and still be preserved until now. Just how glorious must he have been when he was alive? Yi Qinghan did not have time to think. He began to comprehend the great Tao of destruction. As long as he could comprehend this great Tao, even if it was just the embryonic form, as long as he opened his eyes, he would be able to instantly kill those at the same level as him. He would be comparable to an imperial prince. Emperor Yi, on the other hand, was much more terrifying than Yi Qinghan. Her eyes already contained destruction, so her understanding of the great Tao of destruction was far more powerful than Yi Qinghan's. In addition to the great Tao of destruction and the enlightenment divine lotus, the speed of her improvement was unimaginable. Within a radius of 100 miles, the aura of destruction was everywhere. The two of them worked together to control the great Tao of destruction and suppressed everything. The only thing they could not suppress was the 9-colored snake's corpse. The great Tao of destruction entered the mountain range, stirring up a majestic great emperor's aura to counterattack the two of them. As expected, there was a second great emperor that had fallen here. It should be a top-notch expert of the myriad races. Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi withdrew their great Tao of destruction at the same time, not daring to provoke the great emperor's aura. This was just a majestic aura of destruction, and it was already so crazy. If they could comprehend some embryonic form, they could definitely become a supreme battle king of the same level, a true battle king. Even high-grade bloodlines could not withstand the destruction. Their blood and chi became vigorous, as if they were about to burn. Their bodies emitted golden light, and the terror of the zither immortal crimson demon physique was finally revealed. Wisps of divine Guqin illusion spread in all directions. Emperor Ye's body actually formed a huge divine Guqin illusions behind him, merging with his body. Emperor Yi grasped with his hand and could actually control the divine Guqin illusions. With a gentle pluck of the strings, the sound of nature tore through the void from the end of the wilderness, suppressing the great emperor's aura. The mountain range became quiet, and even the wind stopped blowing. Everything was calm, and the space was stagnant. The pure heart of a child, the divine Guqin Taoist physique, and the monstrous combat power gathered in one person to form the unique physique of all time, the zither immortal crimson demon physique. Boom! Emperor Yi broke through and became a Tao sovereign. He immersed himself in the Tao of Guqin, playing the Guqin in peace. Even the great emperor in the wooden coffin seemed to have a soul. Opening the lid, the withered corpse of the great emperor actually had divine light flowing, as if it could be revived at any time. The sound of the Guqin was indescribably beautiful, and the divine lotus of enlightenment opened her eyes. She stood up and danced, and even the stones around her seemed to have spirituality, and everything was revived. Looking at her beautiful figure, Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and frantically suppressed his trembling Tao heart. After a long time, Yi Qinghan calmed down and closed his eyes to comprehend the great Tao of destruction, allowing the medicinal properties of the bloody corpse Ganoderma to burn and condense his bloodline. At this moment, Yi Qinghan felt that his body and bloodline had become incomparably strong, and the power of a punch was at least 100 times stronger. This was why the emperor's son and princess's combat power was so terrifying. It was because they stood on the shoulders of giants, bearing the glory of the great emperor. Their appearance represented the great emperor's personal arrival. Even if they were only at the peak of the great emperor realm, their direct descendants' bloodlines were extremely powerful. Yi Qinghan's eyes looked at the mountain range, and although there were trees and forests in the way, they couldn't block his vision. A humanoid great emperor's corpse was nailed to a cliff, and the great emperor's blood dyed the cliff red. It was incomparably eerie, and the great emperor's eyes were ferocious as if they wanted to devour the sky. A great emperor's weapon pierced through his head, sealing all of his strength, and he couldn't break free until now. Yi Qinghan's hair stood on end, and it was as if he saw an ancient beast that wanted to revive and destroy everything. The cliff was surrounded by abysses, and countless mountain ranges were flattened. The surrounding 10,000 miles was withered, and there were no trees growing. There was only a little bit of vitality in the periphery, and the terrifying sword scars could infer the tragedy of the past. The reason why this space was independent was very likely because it was cut from another plane by their battle. There was indeed a second great emperor's corpse. The great emperor of the human race and the great emperor of the demon race perished together. No, the great emperor of the human race was slightly stronger. After killing his opponent, he was like a lamp without oil and was on the verge of death. However, he was ambushed by the nine-colored snake, and once again suppressed the poisonous snake. In the end, he was powerless to leave this space and died tragically on the spot. What a pity! Yi Qinghan was sad. A great emperor of a generation had died without a sound. This was how heroes were. When they died, their corpses would be buried in the wilderness, and they would exist in this ancient space for tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years. No matter how the wind and rain battered them, their corpses would not decay, and their flesh would not rot. However, no one in the human race remembered him. The end of heroes was always cruel, but the human race needed such heroes. Without them, how could the human race be glorious? The human race also respected them. When such a great emperor's corpse appeared, even the peak great emperor of the human race would have to kneel and weep. Yi Qinghan did not dare to use the great emperor's weapon, so he left it here to suppress this supreme beast in human form. This was its final resting place, and also its supreme glory. After thinking through all this, Yi Qinghan no longer diverted his attention to the supreme existence in the mountain range. He focused on comprehending the last bit of the spatial law's profoundness. As long as he could comprehend this last bit of the spatial law's profoundness, he would be able to achieve initial success in spatial laws. He would be able to shift his position and travel thousands of miles in an instant. It would not consume much of his mental strength. The jade pendant spun at high speed in his sea of consciousness, and all of the spatial law's profoundness appeared. The jade pendant shattered, and the origin of metal wanted to break free from its shackles and transform into a true dragon to leave. The divine martial imperial codex was activated and forcefully suppressed the origin of metal in his sea of consciousness. No matter how much it struggled, it could not break free from the restraints of the imperial codex. Yi Qinghan focused on comprehending the spatial laws. After an unknown period of time, he completely comprehended the spatial laws. His divine sense instantly sensed the space thousands of miles away. He arrived in an instant and then returned in an instant. The stars moved, and he constantly shifted his position. The void was filled with afterimages. His speed was definitely not inferior to that of emperors of the same level. He looked at his own level and found that he had actually reached the peak of the mid-level Tao Master realm. As long as he experienced a deadly battle, he could break through to the peak of the Tao Master realm at any time. Yi Qinghan did not have time to rejoice. He set his eyes on the origin of metal. At this moment, the origin of metal Taoist body. This was his goal. His powerful mental strength enveloped the origin of metal and forcefully suppressed it into his limbs and bones. The origin of metal was extremely fierce. It wanted to tear Yi Qinghan's body apart and break free from its shackles. The pages of the Divine Martial Imperial Codex kept flipping, and the 9 Revolution Chaos Tao Body chapter appeared. This page of the Imperial Codex suppressed the origin of metal and forcefully imprisoned the origin of metal in Yi Qinghan's body. 1 page tore and 1 page suppressed. Yi Qinghan was bathed in a river of blood. His injured body was constantly healing and being torn apart. The 9 Revolution Chaos Tao body was not easy to cultivate. Even the origin of metal Taoist body, which was the most basic special constitution, was not something that could be created by humans. This was a heaven-defying act. Just like every powerful special constitution, it would be punished by the heavens. The heavens were merciless and could not kill him. Only then would he be able to prove his Tao. Yi Qinghan wanted to be above all others. He had to endure this heart-wrenching pain. Roar! Yi Qinghan gritted his teeth and roared. His golden bones were shattered, and his handsome face was distorted. The bloody corpse Lingxi's medicinal properties in his blood began to erupt again. The remaining divinity continued to heal his injured body and condense his golden body. The imperial blood was tyrannical, and the countless essences allowed him to benefit greatly. However, he had to endure pain and torture that humans could not endure. The 9 Revolution Chaos Tao body was only deduced by the previous great emperor. Yi Qinghan was the first to try it. No one knew if this constitution could be created. However, according to the Divine Martial Imperial Codex, if it could be created, it would definitely be the world's #1 special constitution. With an unparalleled physical body, one could tear apart an emperor's body and suppress the great Tao laws. With the origin of all laws gathered, comprehending the origin of laws was as easy as drinking water. Yi Qinghan endured the pain and torture in the depths. His will was tempered, but the outside world was even more terrifying. The imperial bloodline repeatedly attacked and killed the human elites. They were physically and mentally exhausted and could not rest. Even the imperial princes could not take it anymore. The young elites of the human race could not withstand this mental torture. They roared angrily, and their eyes turned red. They were filled with despair. The Qilin tiger's intelligence was superb. It was not inferior to the human elites. It had already transformed into human form. It wore a golden crown on its head and looked like jade. It held a jade cup in its hand and drank wine. At this moment, it was standing outside the space and looking down at the ancient space. A cruel smile appeared on its face. It said to the humanoid beasts beside it, "Don't be in a hurry to kill them. Learn to enjoy the fun." Killing imperial princes of the human race was as easy as blowing off dust. Chapter 212. The Qilin tiger had the blood of the godly emperor, and the concentration was very high. It was almost at the level of atavism. Its combat power was terrifying, and its intelligence was no less than that of the human race. It was also cold and cruel. I am destined to step on their bones, drink their imperial bloodline, and reach the endless peak. In this life, no one can stop me from proving my Tao. The Qilin tiger's eyes flashed. Through the laws and space, he looked at the tens of thousands of human elite disciples. Suddenly, his aura exploded, and his arrogance soared. The ancient space was boundless. Large swamps were lifeless. Once one fell in, they would die without a doubt. There were bones everywhere, and flesh turned into mud and sank into the swamps. Only the mountain range was a place of life. Lin Aoqiong, Nan Gongshen, Dugu Badian, and Xiao Yin's clothes fluttered, and blood dyed their battle robes red. Although it was the enemy's blood, they were exhausted. It had been 8 days, and the king-level bloodline kept harassing them. They could neither rest nor leave. There seemed to be no other choice but to wait for death. In these 8 days, the 4 of them had killed 6 king-level bloodline beasts. However, these beasts were not high-level. They were all sent by the Qilin tiger to die. At this moment, there were only 60,000 human elites left. The death rate was more than 50%. Everyone's eyes were filled with despair and unwillingness. In such a dangerous place, their combat power and willpower were unearthed like never before. Unfortunately, even though their combat power had increased, they were still going to die here. Gu Qingyu's left chest was pierced, and his internal organs were almost shattered. At this moment, he narrowed his eyes and did not dare to rest. Mu Yuqianshan's eyes became deep. He looked at Nangong Xiaobei and sighed secretly. If he knew this would happen, he would have been firm and refused to let him in. Shi Ge and the others were in a similar situation. Their spiritual power was exhausted, and their faces were as pale as paper. At this moment, they had no other choice but to work together to fight against the 10,000 races. Why isn't Brother Yi back yet? Where did he go? Yi Lingyu frowned. Yi Jianma's vitality was in him. If he was not here, Yi Jianma would die without a doubt. I don't know. I sent a message, but I haven't received a reply yet. But looking at the situation, it's better if he doesn't come back. Gu Qinyu shook his head and smiled wryly. If one more person came, one more person would die. Only a Xinqi cultivator could change the situation. Yi Jian was cold and indifferent. He was neither sad nor happy. He was living for himself. He could not see any signs of life. There was only darkness in front of him. There was no light at all. There was nothing but endless destruction that wanted to devour him. Am I really going to die? He originally thought that the chance of survival was in his body and wanted to change the fate of the heavenly demon. Sigh. I've implicated Big Brother. Fuck. How can I completely revive the gold bricks? I want to smash these trash to death. Shi Ji's blood and bones were ghastly. His eyes were sinister and seemed like they were going to split apart. Lin Wuqian coldly stood in front of Gu Qinyu to protect him. Now that he had reached the initial level of Dao Master, his aura was restrained and he looked more like a sword. He looked at the tired Gu Qinyu and said, "Teacher, you should rest for a while. I will protect you." Gu Qinyu nodded slightly. Just as he was about to rest, he noticed that Nan Gongshen had appeared. "Where is your leader, Yi Qinghan, and the little girl?" Nan Gongshen asked directly. His voice was not loud, but it was enough to spread for dozens of miles. Many people were surprised that Nan Gongshen did not use the time to rest. Why was he looking for a Dao Master cultivator? Gu Qinyu shook his head and answered honestly, "I don't know yet. I sent him a message. He will definitely reply when he receives it." Lin Aoqiong stepped forward and asked with a frown, "Can a junior solve this problem?" "He can't solve it, but the little girl on his shoulder can. Her Guqin Dao has reached the peak. She can instantly mobilize our qi, blood, and vital essence to relieve our fatigue. If she is here, the Qilin tiger's harassment tactic will lose most of its effect," Nan Gongshen said in a low voice. "Did they die in battle?" Lin Aoqiong was puzzled. This place was so dangerous that even celestial sect experts could die in battle. If they died, they would not be able to find them. No, their life cards are not broken. It's just that their points have not increased. I'm worried that they are hiding. Nan Gongshen's eyes were filled with anger. If they hid now, they would be no different from traitors. Impossible. I know him. He can't be hiding. He hasn't replied to my message. Either he is too far away to receive it, or he is trapped. That's right. Uncle Master can't be hiding. He has gone through countless deaths and never retreated. He can't be running now. Lin Wuqian argued for Yi Qinghan without hesitation. At this moment, even Yi Lingyu nodded. He knew Yi Qinghan's character better than anyone else. He would never run away in the face of danger. Nan Gongshen and Lin Aoqiong did not expect this team to be so cohesive. I'll go look for them. Lin Aoqiong clenched his fists and looked into the void. He was calculating the time when the next king bloodline expert would attack. No need. If they don't want to be found, you won't be able to find them. Nan Gongshen shook his head. When Yi Qinghan's aura was concealed, even he could not find him. As for Emperor Yi, she did not exist. She did not have any aura at all. Roar! Just as everyone was discussing, another 10 king bloodline experts attacked. The number of king bloodline experts was increasing. This meant that the other party's patience was dwindling. They were about to launch an all-out attack. Nan Gongshen and the others' expressions changed slightly. They gripped their swords and stood up. Kill! If we can withstand one more attack, we will have more chances of survival. In the depths of the swamp, Yi Qinghan's body shone with golden light. His skin and flesh were torn open, and his golden bones were exposed. The golden light sparkled, and his treasure body was crystal clear. The divine martial imperial codex hung in the air, and the enlightenment divine lotus shone brightly. Emperor Yi comprehended the Tao, and Yi Qinghan forged his Tao body. The sound of the guqin filled the air. As long as I can protect my will, I can forge the metal origin Tao body. I can create a precedent. I can achieve the 9 transformation chaos Tao body. Yi Qinghan's eyes were ferocious. His mortal body had always been an obstacle in his path. Now that he had a chance to move it away, it was worth it no matter how hard it was. Fresh blood flowed out, and new blood was born. His flesh was torn apart by the metal origin, but there was enough new flesh to imprison the metal origin in his body. The metal origin wandered in all directions, trying to break free. The water origin and dark element exploded at the same time, causing Yi Qinghan's body to shine with golden light and dim at times. If he wanted to forge the metal origin Tao body, he had to at least suppress the metal origin. But this process was cruel. Emperor Yi suddenly opened his eyes. He watched as Yi Qinghan suffered the cruelest torture in the world. He sat cross-legged on the ground and played the guqin with both hands. The sound of the guqin soothed and suppressed the two wills, causing the metal origin's resistance to gradually weaken. Yi Qinghan instantly felt less pressure. The divine martial imperial codex returned to Yi Qinghan's consciousness and spun continuously. The 9 revolution chaos Tao body actually left the divine martial imperial codex and merged directly into Yi Qinghan's body. Roar! The 9 heavens divine dragon roared as a worldly phenomenon appeared. Water dragons and golden dragons surrounded Yi Qinghan and intertwined with each other. It was as if a god's child had come into being, triggering the origin of all laws. Light flowed around the imperial corpse as the imperial robe fluttered in the wind. The withered corpse actually had a bloody color. The withered imperial corpse could actually produce blood. However, Yi Qinghan couldn't notice this at this moment. Otherwise, he would be scared silly. The parrot's mouth twitched as it stared at Yi Qinghan with eyes full of horror. Yi Qinghan's performance at this moment was beyond its comprehension. Even a true emperor's battle prowess during his youth was only at this level. At this moment, Yi Qinghan's hair turned golden. The azure dragon arm evolved again, turning his entire body into a golden color. His aura was sharp and noble. He raised his hand and grabbed, shattering the void. Iron stones comparable to 5th-rank combat weapons were crushed by him. Metal origin Tao body. It had already taken shape. Yi Qinghan swallowed another small piece of the blood corpse Lingji, and a golden light shot into the 9 heavens. Heaven and earth rumbled, and the vast space around them trembled. Whoosh! 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 Countless lightning bolts crossed through time and space, illuminating the heaven and earth. Countless demonic beasts stopped in their tracks. The human elites also looked at the end of the void with frightened eyes. The lightning bolts were enough to destroy mountains, rivers, sun, and moon. Even the swamps were lifted up as water curtains covered the sky. Someone is undergoing a tribulation. What kind of tribulation is this? I don't know. Oh my God, even an imperial prince's tribulation is only at this level, right? Lin Aoqiong and the others narrowed their eyes. Despite their vast knowledge, they still didn't know what kind of tribulation this was. This kind of tribulation was too terrifying. They felt that they would be killed if they were to undergo it. At this moment, Yi Qinghan fiercely punched at the lightning tribulation. His fist shattered the lightning bolts, causing flesh and blood to splatter everywhere. However, he recovered in an instant. The lightning bolts penetrated his golden body and even his golden bones could be seen clearly. Come! You will only make my golden body Tao body more stable. Yi Qinghan was furious. He didn't even summon his heavy berserk saber. He relied on his physical body to resist the lightning tribulation. The immortal sect Tao robe was shattered. His physical body kept exploding, but it also kept regenerating and strengthening. In the end, the lightning tribulation couldn't shake his golden body. The damage it caused was far slower than the speed of recovery. Emperor Ye's music was majestic and surging. It was as if the great emperor himself had arrived. Yi Qinghan's qi, blood, and bloody corpse Ganoderma in his body were all mobilized. They flowed through his limbs and bones, healing any injury in an instant. This was the gold origin Tao body. With the gold origin protecting his body, no matter how powerful the lightning tribulation was, it couldn't shatter his origin. As long as he still had a breath left, he could recover instantly. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan transformed into a golden dragon and soared into the sky. His golden iron fist penetrated the galaxy, broke through space, and collided with the lightning tribulation. He absorbed the power of lightning and instantly reached the peak of the Tao Master Realm. Boom! The lightning tribulation was destroyed and the tribulation clouds dispersed. The 9-colored light in the sky illuminated the ancient space. Countless living beings were stunned on the spot. The Qilin tiger was surprised. He looked at the space and searched for a long time, but he couldn't find Yi Qinghan's specific location. The ancient space was so big that even a fake emperor would have to spend a lot of time to travel around it. Moreover, he wouldn't go deep into the swamp. It seems that something has happened. Let's go and devour the qi and blood of the human elites. We'll use them as stepping stones to reach the Tao realm. The Qilin tiger's golden crown shone brightly. It was as if an ancient emperor had arrived. He tore open the void node and stepped toward the heroes of the human race. Qilin tiger, as an invincible emperor, when did you learn such boring tactics? Fight me if you have the guts. Nangong Shen shouted angrily. Chapter 213. The Qilin tiger wore a golden crown on its head and an emperor's robe on its body. It had 3 shape-shifting elites behind it. All of them looked invincible and arrogant. They looked down at Nangong Shen and the others with greed in their eyes. Devouring the bloodline of the imperial princes would make them stronger. This was the reason why humans and the other races had been at odds for so many eras. At first, there was no hatred, only profit. Now that hatred was added, the battle became even more brutal. Hundreds of thousands of beasts followed closely behind, and there were more than a dozen king bloodline elites. Humans were at an absolute disadvantage. These dozen king bloodline elites were enough to stall Lin Aoqiong and the others. Although Nangongshen's cultivation level was high, he could only fight the Qilin tiger to a draw. With the addition of another shape-shifting elite, Nangongshen would definitely lose. Lin Aoqiong and the others felt the aura of death. They had been in a tough battle for many days without any time to recover. Now that they were surrounded, it was almost impossible for them to turn the tables. Tens of thousands of human elites roared, unwilling to die. They glared at the beasts and the four shape-shifting elites, unwilling to surrender. Nangongshen, lead them to be my slaves. For your sake, I will reluctantly accept them and spare their lives, the Qilin tiger said proudly, its eyes shining. Their cultivation levels were different. No matter how strong Lin Aoqiong and the others were, it was impossible for them to kill the emperors of the other races. The Qilin tiger did not care about Lin Aoqiong and the others. Killing them was just a matter of time. Lin Aoqiong and the others gripped their divine swords tightly, their blood boiling. I would rather die than surrender. At most, we will die together with them. That's right. I have never thought of leaving since I came for the test. Senior Nangong, lead us. The heroes roared and pointed their swords at the beasts. Ha ha ha, how stupid. I have played with you for so long. Can't you see? If I wanted to kill all of you, I would have killed all of you the day you came in. The Qilin tiger laughed mockingly and said disdainfully. This space has been controlled by the other races since 3 years ago. We were just waiting for your elites to come in and kill you to vent our anger. One of the transformed ferocious beasts stared coldly at the heroes and said to the Qilin tiger, Boss, let's do it. Why are you wasting your breath on them? The process is pleasing to the eye. I like the process. I like to see the fear and despair in their eyes. It's a pity that I didn't get to see them kneel and beg for mercy. The Qilin tiger shook its head in pity. Qilin tiger, fight me one-on-one. If you can defeat me, you can do whatever you want to me and tens of thousands of human elites. If you lose, take your ominous beasts and leave. Nangongshen gritted his teeth. He knew that the human race would not be able to withstand this attack. Once Lin Aoqiong and the others were surrounded, they would die even if there were 3 to 5 king-level bloodline warriors attacking one of them. Hence, he decided to take a gamble. What qualifications do you have to negotiate with this emperor? Just based on the fact that you 3 princes have the royal bloodline. It's a pity that the 3 of you are a little weak. If you were all at the peak of the Immortal Gate, perhaps I wouldn't fight you head-on. But 3 beginner Immortal Gate cultivators, how can you compare to my 3 royal brothers? Even if we can fight to a draw, I still have more than 10 king-level ominous beasts. How many of them can they resist? The Qilin tiger sneered and asked. Nangongshen's face turned pale. The Qilin tiger was not like the other royal-level bloodline warriors. He had a firm mind and would not give others a chance like a brute. Everyone was in a desperate situation. They wanted to break the pot and sink the boat. Battle intent and death chi intertwined. They raised their swords and attacked the sky in unison. What if I join in? A voice pierced through the air. Before the person arrived, the voice was filled with majesty. It was as if a human emperor had arrived. The space shook and a man covered in golden light appeared in front of everyone. A little girl sat on his head. She held a 7-feet-long golden blade in her hand. There was a rope around her waist and she pulled a wooden coffin. She had the majesty of a prince, but her cultivation level was a little weak. Yi Qinghan. Nangongshen was delighted. Although Yi Qinghan's cultivation level was not high, Nangongshen felt that a chance of survival would appear in his body. Moreover, the little girl looked even weaker. She had her eyes closed, as if she could destroy mountains, rivers, sun, and moon if she opened her eyes. So it's you who is going through the tribulation. Unfortunately, your cultivation level is too low. Your gold origin Dao body has become my dowry. The Qilin tiger's eyes lit up. He had seen through Yi Qinghan's origin. His fingertips moved slightly and he reached out to grab Yi Qinghan. He was extremely powerful. Nangong Shen was about to stop him when he saw Yi Qinghan laughing instead of being shocked. His fingertips trembled and a black stone appeared in his hand. It was filled with the aura of death. It was like a desolate death spirit that wanted to break free from its shackles and destroy the universe. The life force of the creature in the stone became stronger and stronger. The gold origin Dao body's golden light covered the sky and covered the golden body. His entire arm was covered in death chi. It was extremely terrifying. Nangong Shen was stunned. The Qilin tiger also stopped in his tracks. His eyes were filled with shock. What is this thing? Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Thousands of beasts roared and retreated, not daring to get close. Yi Qinghan grinned coldly. He flipped his palm and the entire black stone appeared in front of everyone. The terrifying life force was constantly recovering and could break the seal at any time. A peerless evil spirit. The Qilin tiger was shocked. Its royal bloodline boiled and its majesty shook the sky. Its tall and straight body was indomitable. It suppressed everything in the space and looked down at Yi Qinghan. It shouted coldly, "Brat, are you crazy? You actually brought this thing with you. Aren't you afraid of being tainted by karma and being destroyed? Qilin tiger, take your beasts and leave now. Otherwise, let me shatter this stone and let the peerless evil spirit come into being. I just don't know if this peerless evil spirit's appetite will increase greatly after killing all of us. Will it kill its way into the territories of the thousands of races?" Yi Qinghan smiled indifferently. "You are courting death. How dare you threaten me?" The Qilin tiger was furious. It looked coldly at Yi Qinghan. This kind of rookie, no matter how strong his combat power was, the gap between their realms was too big. It could kill him in an instant. Now, he actually dared to threaten it. "So what if I threaten you? You can kill me in an instant, but I can make all of you die here." Yi Qinghan sneered and mocked. Everyone was silent. Yi Qinghan was a madman. No one dared to hold a peerless evil spirit, but he dared. He even dared to use it to threaten others. The Qilin tiger's mouth twitched. Its eyes were fierce as it stared at Yi Qinghan. The killing intent in its eyes was self-evident. "You are the first junior who dares to speak to me like this." The Qilin tiger sneered. "But he will not be the last, stupid tiger." The parrot hid under Emperor Ye's hair and sneered. Cough cough. Nangong Shen could not hold back and laughed out loud. The Qilin tiger was furious. A strand of heaven-suppressing intent pressed down on Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi. Boom! Emperor Yi opened his eyes. It was as if the heavenly Tao had descended. The destructive aura covered the sky and instantly crushed the Qilin tiger's will. The great Tao of destruction descended, causing the heavens to tremble. The ferocious beasts howled in grief and knelt on the ground. The embryonic form of the great Tao could also destroy all living things. The Qilin tiger's pupils shrank. Its battle power exploded and tore the space apart, blocking Emperor Ye's great Tao of destruction. However, its terrifying eyes pierced through the space barrier and attacked the Qilin tiger. The Qilin tiger attacked continuously and barely blocked the pair of terrifying eyes. "Master is threatening you because he thinks highly of you. You should be honored." Emperor Yi closed his eyes and said calmly. The three shape-shifting elite warriors glared at Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi. If it was not for the fact that the evil spirit in Yi Qinghan's hands could be revived at any time, they would have attacked them. The black stone seemed to have a soul. Its eyes fluctuated and looked down on all living things. Everyone and the beasts trembled as if they were being stared at by a supreme being. "What do you want?" Once the evil spirit revives, you will be the first to die. The Qilin tiger warned coldly. It's better than all of us dying and you not dying. As for what I want, of course, I want all of you to get lost immediately. Yi Qinghan said indifferently with a smirk. His arms were wrapped in a deathly aura. Golden light flashed as the origin of gold suppressed the evil spirit. Everyone was overjoyed. Who would want to die? Nangong Shen did not want to continue fighting. He also hoped that the battle would end so that he could find a way to go back and inform the human elites to go to another space. Lin Aoqiong and the others looked at Yi Qinghan with a strange light in their eyes. They looked at the evil spirit in his hands that was about to revive and felt their hair stand on end. This evil spirit was definitely an existence above the divine martial realm. It could instantly kill all the humans and beasts here and devour their vitality. Once it was revived, it would definitely cause chaos in the world. If it was at the fake emperor realm, who knew if the evil spirit would attack the human race or the other races after all of them died? The Qilin tiger's face twitched. He did not dare to compete with Yi Qinghan because no one dared to guess what a lunatic did. Moreover, once they attacked, Yi Qinghan knew that he would die. Why would he not take them down with him? Retreat! The Qilin tiger shouted coldly. Boss! Are you going to be scared by a junior's words? The three shape-shifting elites were furious. They had been planning for 3 years, but they were scared away by a kid with a stone. They were not willing to accept this. The Qilin tiger looked at the three shape-shifting elites coldly. The aura of an overlord appeared and suppressed the three elites so much that they did not dare to make a sound. Roar! With a tiger's roar, the other races retreated. The Qilin tiger looked coldly at Yi Qinghan and clenched his fists. Kid, I will remember you. I advise you to forget. Otherwise, it will become a nightmare in your heart. Yi Qinghan replied indifferently. Stupid tiger, go back and inform the emperors of the other races. Tell them that their divine beast emperor, the divine bird, has returned. The parrot saw that the Qilin tiger did not dare to make a move and stood up arrogantly. The Qilin tiger looked at the parrot with disdain. He snorted and left with a flick of his sleeves. The aura of death dissipated. The heroes of the human race were all paralyzed on the ground. Those with strong wills took the opportunity to cultivate. Whether they could advance or not depended on this. Nangong Shen did not dare to be careless. He looked at Yi Qinghan and said cautiously, "Little brother Yi, this evil spirit is about to revive, right?" "Yes. I can't suppress it anymore." Yi Qinghan nodded without hesitation and replied in a low voice. "You have guts. You dare to carry this thing with you. Aren't you afraid that it will revive at any time and kill you?" Dugu Badian did not take others seriously, but when he looked at Yi Qinghan, he felt his hair stand on end. "Ha ha ha, I'm not wild enough. How can I suppress the Qilin tiger?" Yi Qinghan laughed. His body shone with golden light. His origin Tao body was fully awakened. He suppressed the aura of death and used the Tao of destruction. He joined forces with Emperor Yi to destroy the aura of death of the evil spirit in the stone and consume its energy. Chapter 214. Tens of thousands of human race experts looked at Yi Qinghan with a different expression. Emperor Yi and Yi Qinghan worked together and only expended a little of the death qi. Using the metal origin to seal the dead spirit made it even angrier and wanted to break free. Everyone was shocked and their Tao hearts trembled. Fuck, don't be devoured by the evil spirit before dying at the hands of the myriad races. Everyone distanced themselves from Yi Qinghan, afraid that they would be contaminated by the death qi and die. "Yi Qinghan, why don't you take the stone and go around the myriad races' territory?" Someone laughed bitterly and teased helplessly. Yi Qinghan now had the evil spirit in his hand. Even if he went to the myriad races' territory, as long as he did not encounter a boundary emperor, no one would dare to attack him. They would even have to send him away like he was their ancestor. What level is this evil spirit at? Yi Qinghan, let's not play with fire. Many people will die. Nangong Shen was extremely vigilant and said in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan was sweating profusely. He felt that it was getting more and more strenuous. The evil spirit's resistance was also getting stronger and stronger. Seeing that he could not suppress it any longer, some experts were so scared that their Dao hearts collapsed and they fled into the distance. Boom! Yi Qinghan was extremely helpless. He tore open the coffin and threw the evil spirit inside. A wisp of emperor's might surged and the evil spirit immediately became obedient, not even daring to struggle. Boom! The tens of thousands of people who were left behind immediately knelt on the ground and looked at the wooden coffin in horror. It was already good enough to see a fake emperor in this lifetime. Even Nangong Shen and the others could not see a boundary emperor, let alone a real emperor. Fuck! Who is Yi Qinghan? Why are the people around him so terrifying? Is there an emperor corpse in this coffin? Nangong Shen and the others were shocked. It was as if 100,000 divine beasts were running wildly in their hearts. Their auras were burning and their blood vessels were swelling. Emperor, I didn't mean to blaspheme you. I really had no choice, please forgive me. Yi Qinghan kept muttering in his heart. It was Yi Qinghan's first time throwing an evil spirit into the coffin. My ancestor. Please take me away. My little heart can't take it anymore. The parrot was going crazy. Following Yi Qinghan was like walking on the brink of death. Gulp, everyone swallowed their saliva and knelt in front of the coffin in reverence. They didn't dare to have the slightest intention of blasphemy. Brother. Yi, what kind of existence is in your coffin? Nangong Shen knelt before the monarch coffin. That strand of monarch aura made him feel like he had seen his ancestors. The pressure from his bloodline made him not dare to disrespect it. His legs involuntarily knelt down. It's the body of a great emperor. Cough, cough, don't mind it too much. Let's take the test first. Yi Qinghan coughed dryly, unwilling to mention the emperor corpse again. Fuck. How could he not care? That was the divine body of a great emperor. Even if it had been dead for tens of thousands of years, it was still a true great emperor. Who would dare to not care? What's more, could he still take the test now? The demonic beasts had all retreated, so where were they going to get points? Everyone's eyes were filled with resentment. Even Lin Aoqiong was jealous. What kind of luck was this? Even the emperor corpse was found by him. Let's go back first. We'll talk about the test later. Moreover, most of the people who survived this time are qualified to become hunters. Nangong Shen looked into the void and tried to think of a way to leave this place. However, the space here couldn't be torn apart unless one was a fake great emperor. If they wanted to leave, they would have to wait 20 days for the fake great emperor to tear apart the space again and leave. Brother Lin, Brother Heaven Destroyer, Brother Shao, what's your understanding of the space laws? Can you help me leave this place? Nangong Shen thought for a long time and felt that he couldn't just sit around and wait for death. It was hard to say if the other spaces were dangerous. If they were really controlled by the 10,000 races, the human race would suffer a great loss. Therefore, he had to go back and inform the ancient massacre god. Unless the enemy great emperor made a move, nothing would happen in such spaces. Even if something happened, the ancient massacre god wouldn't know as long as the enemy didn't make a move. Therefore, the possibility of something happening in the other spaces was very high. Nangong Shen couldn't help but feel anxious. It's too dangerous. Once you fall into the space turbulence, you'll definitely die. Dugu Badian frowned. This wasn't something the experts of the immortal sects could do. That's right. The space here isn't any weaker than the monarch domain. Even divine martial experts can't say for sure that they can pass through the space barrier. Xiao Yuni and Lin Aoqiong both tried to stop him. But the ancient massacre god will definitely open more than 10 spaces in the near future for the human race to test. The other spaces might not be as lucky as us to bring out an evil spirit to repel the enemy's experts. Nangong Shen said in a deep voice. There are at least 1 million young experts in the 10 spaces. These are the cornerstones of the human race. We can't lose them. But the 4 of us can't possibly open up a space. Let alone let you pass through the space barrier, Dugu Batian said coldly. Yi Qinghan frowned. If the 1 million young experts of the human race all died in battle, the human race would definitely be dispirited for a long time. Moreover, he wasn't sure if Si Wuxia and the other juniors would run into other spaces to train. Passing through the space barrier at this time was no longer a show of strength. It was an act of helplessness. Regardless of whether they succeeded or not, they were worthy of respect. Count in the 2 of us. Yi Qinghan stepped forward with Emperor Yi. They had decided to take action. Your space laws. Nangong Shen was pleasantly surprised. If there were 2 more people with small success in the space laws, the success rate would definitely increase greatly. Small success in the space laws. Both my son and I have. Moreover, I left a drop of blood essence on my sister. It's easier for me to sense her location and locate the monarch domain space. Yi Qinghan didn't hold back. If he allowed Nangong Shen to pass through the space now, he might be very safe. However, Nangong Shen's success rate would be very low, and the human race would be in great danger. Are you serious? Nangong Shen was overjoyed. With 6 small success in the space laws working together and the monarch domain's coordinates, the success rate would be at least 60%. Yes. Moreover, I have the metal origin Dao body now. I can withstand normal space storms. The death rate will be lower. The success rate should be 80%. Yi Qinghan nodded and said. Good. I, Nangong Shen, owe you my life. If I'm lucky enough to succeed this time, I will repay you with all my strength. Nangong Shen's blood boiled. In the end, more than 1 man of the human race was willing to sacrifice himself for the human race. When Dugu Batian and the others looked at Yi Qinghan again, the way they looked at him changed. They now regarded him as an existence on the same level. They no longer looked at him with arrogance. Yi Qinghan looked at Gu Qingyu, Muyu Tianchen, and the others. He said in a deep voice, after I leave, I'll leave my son in your care. Her physical body is very weak, and she's not suitable for close combat. Do not let strangers near her. Brother Yi, don't worry. With me here, anyone who wants to harm her will have to step over my dead body. Nangong Shen said seriously. Dugu Batian, Lin Aoqiong, and the others nodded to express their thoughts. Good. Let's start now. We'll work together to break the space barrier and enter the alternate space. Leave the locating of the monarch domain to me. Yi Qinghan gazed at the void. The space patterns were very profound. The overlapping of space seemed to be balanced, but in reality, they were connected by alternate spaces. After entering the alternate space, the experts would be able to sense the other space. But if they couldn't sense it and entered the chaotic space storm instead, they would definitely be torn apart. Space laws. Appear. The 5 human experts worked together. The space rippled, and the patterns of the laws were clearly visible. The experts of the human race were overjoyed. They greedily looked at the profoundness of the laws. This was their biggest opportunity. Gu Qingyu's eyes stared at the profoundness of the void. It was as if he could see through everything and feel the origin. The profoundness of the space laws appeared in his sea of consciousness. Those who could survive until now were all super elites of the human race. In the blink of an eye, at least 30 of them were enlightened. Wang. The sound of the guqin was vast and mighty, shaking the void. The profoundness of space became clearer, as if it was placed in front of everyone. At this moment, the more than 20,000 experts who didn't escape were all enlightened. The elites who comprehended the space laws were in an era of explosion. Emperor Yi played the guqin with both hands. The 9 strings were like sharp divine weapons, cutting through the celestial dipper gloves. Her hands were instantly bathed in a river of blood. Her fingers were connected to her heart, and the pain made her tear up. Enter. Nangong Shen saw that the space had been torn apart and the alternate space was clearly visible. He immediately shouted. Yi Qinghan's figure flashed and disappeared into the space. He didn't take the coffin with him as he was afraid that the 10,000 races would come back. The space gradually closed. Tens of thousands of people were enlightened. However, Lin Aoqiong, Nangong Shen, and the others stared at the space, wishing they could see through it. Emperor Yi stood in front of the wooden coffin with his guqin. He didn't speak to anyone, and his cold aura kept people 1,000 miles away. Now, everyone could only wait and hope that Yi Qinghan would succeed. However, locating the imperial domain required time. It couldn't be done overnight. Emperor Yi looked at Lin Wuqian and the others who were enlightened and healed their injured bodies. Without using his ethereal force, he gently played the guqin. The beautiful melody was accompanied by the space laws, spreading throughout the entire space. The real opportunity was left for the fated. The more than 20,000 people who weren't scared away by the Emperor Corpse benefited greatly. Under the stimulation of the space law's profoundness, they were enlightened and could clearly feel the texture of space. Then, under the influence of Emperor Ye's guqin music, the feeling of the space laws turning into reality appeared again. Gu Qingyu was still in the same spot a second ago. In the next second, he mysteriously disappeared. His sword pierced through the sky, and the space cracked open. A narrow alternate space appeared. His sword Dao was so strong that even Lin Aoqiong was shocked. This guy's sword Dao is so terrifying. If he breaks through the immortal realm and evolves his high-level bloodline, he won't be any weaker than me. Lin Aoqiong praised without holding back. Whoosh, after a few breaths, Muyu Tianchen and Yi Lingyu also disappeared. Then, hundreds of experts activated the space laws. Nangong Shen and the others were overjoyed. Of course, the more experts there were, the better. In the end, 20,000 people all understood the space laws within 2 hours. Some of the more talented ones directly understood the space law's embryonic form. After 3 to 5 years, they would naturally reach the small success stage of space laws. Emperor Yi gently played the guqin. There was no killing intent. It was as if he was playing a song from the immortal realm. The light of the Emperor Corpse became stronger and stronger. Gradually, it gained the power of blood qi. However, its aura was restrained. The alternate space was extremely dangerous. Sometimes, there would be space storms that were strong enough to tear the immortal realm close apart. There was only emptiness in the alternate space. Yi Qinghan had to dodge and locate the Emperor Corpse at the same time. It was even more difficult. Chapter 2:15. In the alternate dimension, Yi Qinghan's golden body was torn apart. If it were anyone else, they would have been torn to shreds by the storm. Yi Qinghan's spiritual power was highly concentrated. On one hand, he was guarding against the spatial storm, and on the other hand, he was searching for the coordinates of the arch domain. The space was vast, and it wasn't something a Tao sovereign or an immortal sect expert could explore. Yi Qinghan had overestimated himself. Even if his life essence was in the arch domain, he wouldn't be able to sense it in a short period of time. Staying in this alternate dimension for another 5 minutes would increase the danger. He could die at any time. His true essence formed a Tao robe that protected his golden body. His physical body was being torn apart by the astral winds, and it was constantly being tempered. In this alternate dimension, Yi Qinghan had an easier time comprehending the spatial laws. However, he didn't dare to use them recklessly. He might collide with the spatial storm in the next second. That would be suicide. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the storm's formation was inexplicable and sudden. In one breath, the space around Yi Qinghan was still stable, but in the next breath, a spatial storm was born. It brushed past Yi Qinghan several times in a row, tearing his flesh and bones apart. Golden light flashed as it constantly repaired itself. His golden body kept strengthening, but Yi Qinghan was a little anxious. Now wasn't the time for a life-and-death experience. A breath's worth of time might be enough to save tens of thousands of human elites. Divine Martial Emperor Codex. Appear. Help me leave this place. Yi Qinghan formed seals with his palms and actively provided vast amounts of energy to the Divine Martial Emperor Codex to help it recover. Yi Qinghan's face turned pale. He gritted his teeth and persevered. He kept touching the spatial nodes, wanting to pass through the barrier and find where Yimingshi was. The Divine Martial Emperor Codex didn't disappoint Yi Qinghan. The spatial chapter emitted runes that helped Yi Qinghan's spatial senses increase by 1,000 times. He instantly passed through the barrier. The alternate space wasn't just connected to a single region. It could be connected to any space in the endless universe. The universe was so vast that if one traveled to a desolate area and wanted to return to the imperial domain, it would take at least a few years or even a few centuries. One might even have to wander in the universe forever. At this moment, Yi Qinghan had even given up on defending himself. He was wholeheartedly searching for his other heartbeat. The life essence blood was very attractive to him. He had given it to Yimingshi to make it easier for him to locate her. He had never thought that it would come in handy at such a critical moment. Soon, Yi Qinghan discovered the imperial domain. Countless people were preparing to participate in the examination in the ancient god of slaughter's territory. Emperor-level existences appeared one after another, and they were extremely powerful. Immortal Gate Realm cultivators could fight against supreme divine martial experts. Yimingshi and the others were still waiting, but Huang Xiaohu and Tan Wuxia were no longer there. They had entered the ancient space to take the test. Yi Qinghan used the supreme laws of space, overlapping the nodes of the alternate space and the space of the imperial domain. His physical body burst with all its might, and his body of the great path of the origin of metal was indestructible. He tore through the space barrier with brute force, and his figure flashed, smashing into the hunter's hall from the void. Whoosh! A meteor fell from the sky, startling everyone. Yi Qinghan tore through space. He was already exhausted and had no strength to control the golden body. Seeing that he was about to fall, he gritted his teeth and mobilized the last bit of strength in his blood, using the golden body to smash into the center of the martial arts arena. Get out of the way! An angry roar that was deafening was like a thunderclap. The fake emperor expert opened his eyes slightly. With just his will, he imprisoned Yi Qinghan's body in midair. I am Yi Qinghan from the ancient space. Now, the ancient space presided over by Nangong Shen has been controlled by the myriad races. If the other spaces are also controlled, it will be a land of death. All the examinees will be wiped out. I implore the Supreme Half-Step Emperor to immediately stop the examination and send people to rescue them. Yi Qinghan's golden robes fluttered as he knelt in the void and respectfully pleaded. What did you say? The space presided over by Nangong Shen has been controlled by the myriad races. How did you escape? The fake emperor was shocked. He suddenly stood up, grabbed Yi Qinghan in front of him, and questioned him in a deep voice. What this brat said is absolutely not a lie. We suffered heavy casualties in that space. If it wasn't for the fact that the other party wanted to devour the bloodline of the Arch, we would have been wiped out. I had an ancient undead sealed in my body that forced the other party to retreat. That was why I had the chance to join forces with Nangong Shen, Lin Aoqiong, and the other thearchs to tear open the space and enter the other space. It was by chance that we found the monarch domain. I implore the thearch to immediately stop the examination and tear open the space to bring all the examinees back. Yi Qinghan said hurriedly. Whoosh! The fake emperor did not verify any further. He continued to tear open more than 10 ancient spaces. All divine martial artists, enter the space. I'll give you 1 incense stick's worth of time to bring everyone out. Friends of the ancient massacre god, please come out of seclusion. There's a big problem with the hunter examination. The fake emperor threw out a sentence and directly took Yi Qinghan into the previous space. As soon as he entered the space, he realized that Yi Qinghan was telling the truth. My lord, I've let you down. The death rate this time is more than 50%. I've let down the human race and the ancient massacre god. Nangong Shen was pleasantly surprised when he saw the space being torn open. He knew that Yi Qinghan had succeeded. Then, his face was filled with guilt as he knelt on one knee and said in a deep voice. Get up. You've made a great contribution. If it weren't for your reminder, who knows how much trouble would have happened. The fake emperor's expression was ugly. He looked at the remaining 50,000 elites and was incomparably furious. He broke through the shackles and shot into the territory of the 10,000 races. He shouted angrily, the ancient massacre god will return today's grudge 100 times over. His voice rumbled and spread into the ancient times. The fake emperor was furious. Corpses flew for thousands of miles and blood gushed out, forming a blood-red curtain. 8 figures rushed out from the ancient massacre god forbidden ground. They were all fake emperors. Their figures flashed and disappeared into the ancient space. Seeing the countless casualties in the space, they were furious. Half of the ancient massacre god's small ancient space was controlled by the 10,000 races. It was obvious that the other side's quasi-emperors had made a move. Yi Qinghan's space had a death rate of more than 55%, but it was not the highest. Some ancient spaces had a death rate of more than 70%. More than 100,000 people had entered, but only 30,000 remained. Some of them were heavily injured, and even the emperor-level cultivators were not spared. They were bathed in blood, and when they saw the fake emperor appear, they fainted. It could be seen how many deaths they had experienced in the past 10 days. If it weren't for their willpower, they would have been devoured by the other side's top royal bloodline. Yi Qinghan pulled Emperor Yi over and tied the wooden coffin to his waist with a rope. Then, he brought them out of the ancient space. Millions of people looked at Yi Qinghan. Fortunately, he had taken the risk to rush out of the ancient space. Otherwise, many people would have died. Yi Qinghan, Dugu Badian, Lin Aoqiong, Xiao Yuni, Emperor Yi, you have all made great contributions to the human race. You have directly become hunters and obtained 10,000 contribution points to be promoted to 3-star hunters. As for the rewards, you will have to wait for the Boundary Emperor to inform you. The 9 fake emperors gathered and discussed. They looked at Yi Qinghan and the others with a frightened expression. If it weren't for Yi Qinghan risking his life to inform them, the human race would have suffered heavy losses. Many thanks to the half-step great emperors. Yi Qinghan and the others were overjoyed. Hunter contribution points were not the same as the contribution points obtained from the ancient space. The difference between the two was huge. The contribution points obtained from the ancient space could only allow one to become a hunter and had no other use. Hunter contribution points, on the other hand, could be exchanged for all kinds of treasures and secret techniques. The test is temporarily suspended. Everyone, return to Emperor Abyss City and wait for the summons. The fake emperor ordered everyone to retreat quietly. They were all discussing in low voices. From time to time, they would look back at Yi Qinghan with gratitude in their eyes. Nangong Shen, you have made great contributions to the human race this time. The Boundary Emperor will definitely summon you personally. Wait for an audience. Many thanks, sir. I dare not claim any credit this time. If it weren't for Yi Qing Han, all of us would have died. Nangong Shen did not claim any credit. He recounted everything that had happened. On the other hand, Yi Qing Han was constantly looking for Si Wuxia and Huang Xiaohu. The two of them were lucky or smart enough to not reveal their strongest battle strength. Especially Si Wuxia. After knowing that the ancient space was controlled by the myriad races, he immediately concealed his aura and did not reveal his bloodline. Otherwise, the ancient space they were in would definitely be attacked by countless experts. Yi Qing Han took a deep breath and gathered everyone. He looked back at the wooden coffin, not knowing what to do. Yi Qing Han, you said you have a sealed dead spirit on you. Take it out and let me have a look. The fake emperor from before looked at Yi Qing Han with satisfaction in his eyes. Nangong Shen and the others were still in shock. They did not have time to say that there was an emperor corpse in the wooden coffin. Otherwise, the boundary emperor would have come out of seclusion. Yi Qing Han's expression changed slightly. He pointed at the coffin and said softly, "It's in the coffin, and there's a..." When the fake emperor heard that there was a sealed dead spirit in the coffin, he immediately reached out to grab it. The moment he opened the coffin, a pure emperor aura suppressed the heavens and rushed toward the imperial region. Then, it spread toward the endless universe. Heaven and earth rumbled as the origin of all laws and the great Tao gathered. All spirits knelt down as the boundary emperor broke through the door. Boom! The 9 fake emperors' expressions changed drastically as they knelt down. Welcome back, Supreme Great Emperor of the human race. Dong dong dong, the countless experts on the training ground felt their hearts beat wildly as their faces turned pale. Welcome back, Supreme Great Emperor of the human race. Even an emperor corpse could make a boundary emperor kneel. This was the difference between a great emperor and a boundary emperor. An emperor's body had already proven its Tao. Even if it crossed countless eras, it could still exist in the world. Di Shang was shocked. He never thought that he would be able to see an emperor corpse in this life. He did not know how many years it had been dead, but it was perfectly preserved. It was lifelike, and there were still divine light fluctuations. What Di Shang did not know was that the previous emperor corpse had already withered. It was because Emperor Ye's divine melody had revived the emperor corpse, and it had regained its vitality. Supreme Great Emperor of the human race, all spirits welcome your return. Ask for your identity, and we will bury you in the ancestral land according to the ancient human emperor's standards. Di Shang knelt on the ground, his eyes filled with sorrow. A great emperor had fallen countless years ago, and his corpse was left in the ancient space to be battered by the wind and rain. The emperor corpse floated in the air. It was lifelike, and its vitality was reborn as if it was about to come back to life. Even though it was just a corpse, it suppressed the heavens. Even the dead spirits did not dare to struggle. Yi Qing Han was stunned. How did a dried corpse become like this? Chapter 2:16. In the boundless universe, all the experts came out. Even if it was just a strand of the emperor's robe fluttering in the wind, it was enough to intimidate everyone. All the experts and quasi-emperors came to see the emperor corpse respectfully. At this moment, the emperor corpse had been dragged by Yi Qing Han to the inner area of the ancient massacre god. Only quasi-emperors and pseudo-emperors could see it. Where did you find this supreme emperor corpse? Zhan Yunxiao, the supreme old ancestor of the Zhan clan, was a quasi-emperor. His battle intent soared to the heavens, and the aura he released unconsciously made people of the same realm feel pressured. This junior found it in the ancient space. Di Shang pointed at Yi Qing Han and said. Yi Qing Han brought Emperor Yi to face the strongest experts of the human race. It was inevitable that he would feel some trepidation. Seniors, there's another emperor corpse in the ancient space, but it's not from the human race. That humanoid emperor's head was pierced by a battle sword and nailed to the cliff. I feel that it's better not to go near it. Yi Qinghan replied respectfully. Even so, we can't let the myriad races have it. Moreover, there's also our human race's emperor weapon. Di Shang's deep eyes looked at the sleeping emperor corpse with reverence. Emperors were invincible in the world, and this emperor corpse could actually kill emperors of the same realm when it was alive. How terrifying was its battle strength. The emperor corpse isn't that easy to touch. Desecrating the emperor corpse is the same as desecrating the true emperor. Although we're quasi-emperors, we'll definitely die if we touch the emperor corpse. Xia Qintian of the Sky Dragon Sacred Dynasty said. He was wearing an emperor's robe and a golden crown. He was incomparably majestic. Then we'll seal this space. No one can enter. A supreme existence of the Shenyuan Dao realm said in a low voice. A supreme existence of the Shenyuan Dao realm, who had once given birth to a supreme human emperor, had to listen to his words. Once the Shenyuan sword appeared, who could fight against it? What about this supreme existence? With the appearance of the emperor corpse, will the evil spirits of the Forbidden Grounds send out supreme existences to fight for it? An expert of the Eternal Cloud Sacred Ground also stood out and asked cautiously. Buzz. The emperor robe trembled, its might overflowing into the heavens, as if it was saying that even if its master had been asleep for 100,000 years, no one could blaspheme him. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. This was not the time for him to interrupt. Just as everyone was discussing what to do with the emperor's corpse, it suddenly came to life and appeared behind Emperor Yi. She was so scared that her face turned pale. She jumped onto Yi Qinghan's body. The parrot was stupefied. It had never seen such a strange thing before. It was so scared that it started to squawk loudly. Ancestor! My heart can't take it anymore. The emperor's corpse is coming back to life. The parrot was so scared that its body went stiff, and it fainted. Dong dong dong, Yi Qinghan's entire body was tense, and he was sweating profusely. Some of the fake emperors were so scared that they were dizzy. They stared at the great emperor's corpse with their eyes wide open. They discovered that the great emperor's eyes were wide open, and he was staring at Emperor Yi. Senior, do you have any unfulfilled wishes? Yi Qinghan's body trembled as he asked in a low voice. The emperor's corpse did not say anything. Its divine body flowed with precious light as it continued to look at Emperor Yi. There was no emotion in its eyes. There was no life in its deep and boundless eyes, but it made people's hair stand on end. The quasi-emperors were shocked. There were so many quasi-emperors and fake emperors here. If the emperor's corpse had a wish, why didn't it look for them? Why did it look for an ignorant little girl? The emperor's corpse's skin became more and more dazzling. It was sparkling and translucent, like the body of a living person. Its qi and blood gradually rose. The emperor's corpse had a spirit. Although it did not have a soul, it was recognized by heaven and earth. If anyone or anything dared to blaspheme it, the emperor's corpse would definitely explode. The punishment of the heavens. Unparalleled great emperor. If you have any unfulfilled wishes, please give us a decree. We will do our best. Di Shang and the others knelt on one knee and bowed. The emperor's corpse was silent. It did not even want to look at them. Yi Qinghan looked at the great emperor's weathered face that was filled with sorrow and loneliness. Although there were no emotions in his eyes, there was an inextinguishable battle intent and endless stories. Even though he had died thousands of years ago, he was still worried about the human race and still wanted to fight for the human race. Looking at the great emperor's eyes and weathered face, Yi Qinghan felt like crying. No, there were already 2 streams of tears flowing down. He could not hold it in at all. My son, play a song for the great emperor. Yi Qinghan placed Emperor Yi down and said gently. Emperor Yi's body trembled. He had never seen a moving corpse in his life. Today, he saw the emperor's corpse running behind him and staring at him. Fortunately, Yi Qinghan was beside him. Otherwise, he would have fainted from fright. The emperor's robe shook as if it was responding to Yi Qinghan's words. Emperor Yi sat cross-legged and summoned the divine zither. Divine light shot out in all directions, shocking the boundary emperors. What kind of constitution is this? Many boundary emperors were shocked. This is. Zhang Yunxiao was a Dao realm expert of the ancient Zhan family and had an unbroken inheritance. He was extremely shocked and muttered, "This is the Zither Immortal Crimson Demon Constitution. A supreme constitution that is hard to come by." The first-generation Zither Immortal Crimson Demon Constitution once fought side by side with the ancestors of the Zhan family. They fought until the universe collapsed, their talents split into 8 and 6 directions, and even the forbidden grounds were split into pieces. They killed so many evil spirits that they submitted. That was a glorious era. Whine. The sound of nature was filled with sorrow and joy. The sound of the zither was vast and mighty, shaking people's hearts. This song is called the Great Emperor's Elegy. Emperor Ye's voice rang out. His figure danced, and the rainbow glaze immortal sect's Taoist robe awakened. For wings spread out, and he was like a goddess descending to the mortal world. He was so holy that the boundary emperors did not dare to blaspheme him. This was an era of reverence for heroes. This was an era where great emperors rose from all directions. They went on expeditions and fought for the human race. For the survival of the human race, their great emperor's blood spilled and burned the heavens. An inch of mountains and rivers, an inch of blood, 1,000,000 youths, 1,000,000 soldiers. The unparalleled great emperors led the heroes of the human race to conquer the endless universe. They resisted the myriad races and fought in the forbidden lands. Countless heroes fell, and no one even knew their names. Countless people didn't fear death and continued to press forward. The sound of the zither surged, and it was deep and full of vicissitudes. It brought the scene of the ancient times to the present. The great emperor's corpse stood proudly, looking up at the sky as if he was indomitable. His battle intent was high. The sound of the zither changed abruptly, and it was filled with sorrow. The great emperors fought against each other, and they were all stained with blood. 10,000 laws wailed, and the mountains and rivers were flooded with the blood of the great emperors. 8,000 years of cultivation were buried in dust. Both great emperors fell, and heaven and earth mourned. Tens of thousands of spirits cried, and their angry roars shook the mountains and rivers. Farewell, Supreme Great Emperor. Many fake emperors and boundary emperors seemed to have seen a great emperor fall in front of them. Tens of thousands of spirits wept silently, and they could not help but tear up. They seemed to have seen their own end, the end of their ancestors. Farewell, Supreme Great Emperor. The reverence in the hearts of Di Shang and the others reached the extreme, and they could not help but kneel. Yi Qinghan clenched his iron fists, and his qi and blood burned. Golden light shone brightly, and his gold origin Dao body erupted. It was as if he wanted to conquer the universe, shatter the forbidden land with a punch, and kill the emperors of 10,000 races. A great emperor's elegy sang of prosperity and sorrow. The great emperor was unyielding, and he would rather die than fall. His great emperor blood burned, and he wanted to protect every inch of the human race's mountains and rivers. He wanted to fight for a place for the human race to live. This was the so-called every inch of mountains and rivers is an inch of blood. Now, every inch of land under the feet of the human race was stained with the blood of the great emperors, the essence blood of the human race's ancestors. They had exchanged their lives for this, and they were worthy of respect. Anyone who blasphemed against the heroes was a traitor. Even if they fled 1,000,000 miles away, they should be killed. Farewell, Supreme Great Emperor, please enter the ancestral land to rest in peace. Farewell, Supreme Great Emperor, please enter the ancestral land to rest in peace. Farewell, Supreme Great Emperor, please enter the ancestral land to rest in peace. The three voices came from the quasi-emperor, Yi Qinghan, and Emperor Yi. At this moment, Emperor Yi finally understood the true meaning of the great emperor's elegy. He understood that the Zither Tao was filled with killing intent and battle intent. His Zither Tao had improved, and his battle prowess had increased. The Supreme Great Emperor took a step forward, and he headed straight for the human race's ancestral land. Everyone followed closely behind. Looking at the bloody hole on the Great Emperor's back, they felt even more sorrowful. The sound of the zither rang out again, and the Great Emperor's song was sent to his grave. The Great Emperor's back was filled with sorrow, and it made people's eyes turn red, and Emperor's tears fell. No one knew which era this Great Emperor was from. He fell silently, but he killed the emperors of 10,000 races. He made great contributions to the human race, and fought for 1,000 years of glory for the human race. His corpse was left in the ancient space for countless years, and it was left to be blown by the wind and beaten by the rain. The human race's ancestral land was where countless heroes and emperors of the human race were buried. This was the foundation of the human race, and even the evil spirits did not dare to approach it. Once the emperor formation was activated, no one would be able to withstand it. The tombstones were overflowing with majesty. Most of the tombstones were carved with names and achievements for the future generations to pay respect to. However, there were a portion of heroes whose names were unknown even after death. The future generations could only erect a nameless tombstone for them. Yi Qinghan's blood was boiling. Looking at the tombstones, his battle intent overflowed. The ancestral land shone with golden light, and the great emperor's might was vast and mighty. The many quasi-emperors did not dare to raise their heads. The cemetery that had been lonely for 10,000 years welcomed another great emperor. The heavens and earth were so oppressive that it was hard to breathe. The great emperor's majestic body stood proudly. He stretched out his hand and grabbed a huge rock from the void. He personally built a stone coffin for himself and erected a tombstone. With a flick of his finger, stone fragments flew everywhere, and a simple stone coffin appeared. On the tombstone, two flamboyant words appeared, vast and mighty river of eternity. Tianwu. More than 10 quasi-emperors' pupils shrank, and the shock in their eyes was self-evident. He is the Tianwu Great Emperor. Boom! All the quasi-emperors knelt down. Tears flowed down the river. The Tianwu Great Emperor was a supreme existence from 50,000 years ago. He had fought his way into the Forbidden Land 3 times. Each time, he would stain the void with blood. However, each time, he would bring out the corpse of a traitor. The ferocious spirits roared, but they did not dare to chase him out of the Forbidden Land. He entered the Tao through martial arts and called himself the Tianwu Great Emperor. He suppressed the heavens with one hand, and no one dared to disobey him. He destroyed everything, and no one dared to make a sound. He was unyielding, and his body was tainted with the aura of death. However, he still wanted to kill his way into the 10,000 races. In the end, he disappeared without a trace. However, he did not expect that he would use his final glory to take down the emperor of the 10,000 races and fight for the last chance of survival for the human race. He left behind a final sentence for the human race, and that was, the human race needs heroes, we need to revere heroes. Those who dare to blaspheme the ancestor heroes, even if they betray us and enter the Forbidden Land, they must be prepared to die. May the great emperor rest in peace. This junior will protect every inch of the human race's mountains and rivers with my broken body. Even if the void is stained with blood, I will fight for a breath of time for the human race, and let the human race have another great emperor. Di Shang and the others roared in grief and anger. If the Tianwu Great Emperor did not use his final glory to kill the emperor of the 10,000 races, preventing them from counterattacking, the human race would not have the chance to have another great emperor. They would have become the prey of the 10,000 races long ago. Chapter 217. The Forbidden Land was lifeless, but there were living things. Time had stopped, and there was no order. However, there were ancient trees that towered into the clouds. It could be seen that they had existed for at least 100,000 years. Countless immortal treasures and divine medicines stood on the mountain peak of the Forbidden Land. They were protected by the great Tao, and even the dead spirits couldn't get close. It made people drool. If the outside world got their hands on them, they could definitely extend their lifespan. Even a half-emperor could fight against the heavens for another 100 years. There were no weak existences here. Even the appearance of an undead spirit in human form could cause the heavens to collapse and the earth to rend. In a mountain range filled with the aura of death, there were more than 10 dead spirits gathered. They were incomparably powerful, and all of them had bodies. Some of them had ancient trees, some had skeletons, and there was even a half-emperor divine body. They were incomparably powerful. Another powerful emperor corpse has appeared in the human race. Is there anyone who dares to follow me out of the Forbidden Land and snatch it? A terrifying dead spirit was covered in the aura of death, as if he had broken free from hell. His eyes were suffused with red light, and his will could shatter time and space. He must have been a supreme existence when he was alive. The emperor corpse has already entered the ancestral land. Existences without bodies like us will definitely die if we enter the ancestral land. A skeletal dead spirit shook his head. This body couldn't leave the Forbidden Land at all. Otherwise, it would be destroyed by the time and order of the outside world. Even its soul would rapidly age, and its combat power would be greatly reduced. How can a coward who is afraid of death achieve immortality? The half-emperor dead spirit scorned in disdain. What a joke! If you aren't afraid of death, why did you enter the Forbidden Land? With that, the aura of death erupted. More than 10 ancient vicious spirits glared at each other. Their killing intent soared into the sky, and the wind whistled and the ancient trees swayed. The dead spirits weren't united. The Forbidden Land was vast and boundless, and most of them were independent. They rarely met, and only when the emperor corpse appeared in the human race did they join hands for benefits. Once they couldn't reach an agreement, they would immediately turn hostile. A bunch of motley crew. No wonder you haven't achieved anything after holding up here for tens of thousands of years. Since you don't dare to take the risk, just wait for death here. The half-emperor dead spirit stepped out of the Forbidden Land. The laws of time and order of the outside world wanted to tear his body and soul apart. He was surrounded by the aura of death, and the laws of time and order of the world were shielded from his body. It could be seen how terrifying he was in his previous life. Evidently, this quasi-emperor body was also obtained by him when he entered the territory of the human race. This evil spirit had committed countless evil deeds and was nicknamed Guechenzi. He had long been blacklisted by the experts of the human race. Once a great emperor appeared in the human race, they would definitely kill their way into the forbidden area and take his head. The Tianwu emperor was buried, and all the heroes retreated. In the ancient massacre god's training ground, the ancient barbaric palace still existed. The laws and profoundness coexisted, and the great Tao existed together. In a large hall, more than 10 half-emperors sat. They were all of the human royal bloodline. They looked at Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi with admiration and desire in their eyes. Their desire was obviously to fight for these two disciples. Yi Qinghan, the Zhan family's Tao realm is the place created by the supreme battle physique. It is inextricably linked to your metal origin physique. If you become my disciple, you will definitely be able to enter the blessed land and grotto heaven like Zhan Gu and comprehend the stone tablets left behind by my ancestors. Golden light shot out from Zhan Yinxiao's eyes as he tossed out a bombshell in an attempt to recruit Yi Qinghan. The Tianlong sacred dynasty is also willing to nurture you. You can choose the resources and ancient secret stone tablets. Your status will be the same as Crown Prince Xia Qiyue, and we will marry the Saintess Xia Ziluo to you. Your bloodline will definitely be endlessly glorious. Who knows, you might even be able to produce a true supreme emperor. Xia Qintian's black hair fluttered without wind. His majesty was overwhelming, and his eyes were filled with the vicissitudes of time. The Divine Physique Bloodline Sacred Ground invites you to become a member of the Special Physique Alliance. We will nurture you with all our might and will not restrict your actions. The supreme existence of the Divine Physique Bloodline Sacred Ground, Xia Qintian, had the supreme body and was only half a step away from becoming a true supreme emperor. He was incomparably powerful, and with the awakening of his tyrannical blood, he could shatter Dao bodies of the same level with a single punch. He looked at Yi Qinghan's metal origin body with approval in his eyes. For a moment, the 9 factions were all fighting for this disciple. This made Yi Qinghan restless. It was not good to reject anyone. Emperor Yi smiled. Yi Qinghan was able to reach where he was today because of his own hard work and not because of a gift from the heavens. His metal origin body was able to succeed because no one could imagine how much torture he had endured. Now that she had obtained the recognition of a supreme expert, she was truly happy. Stop fighting, all of you. I brought Yi Qinghan from a small border region. Naturally, he is my disciple. He is a genius that I, the ancient massacre god, will nurture with all my might. Di Shang was thick-skinned and directly interrupted everyone's fight. Di Shang was indeed thick-skinned. Previously, he had looked down on Yi Qinghan and the other disciples of the arrogant sect. He had only taken a liking to see Wuxia and Emperor Yi. Unfortunately, he had made a mistake and failed to recognize Tai Hua, a supreme emperor. Now, he had made another mistake. Yi Qinghan had actually reached where he was today. He had the battle prowess of the arch. Moreover, although his cultivation level was low, he could be nurtured very well. He was different from other prodigies like the other princes and princesses. They had already formed their own Tao and relied on themselves. They did not need others to guide them. Also, Emperor Yi is also Yi Qinghan's disciple. Don't even think about him. Di Shang was extremely domineering. He wanted to capture all the prodigies in one fell swoop. The corner of Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He had only heard of people snatching women from good families. He had never seen anyone forcefully taking in a disciple. You old man, don't think that I don't know. It's true that you brought Yi Qinghan out, but you did not take him in as a disciple. Now that he doesn't have a master, he can freely choose his master. The old monster of the Tianji sect calculated with his fingers. Yi Qinghan's life had been rough, chaotic, and illusory. However, he was still able to calculate what had happened in the past year. He immediately stood out and reprimanded Di Shang. Di Shang's face turned red. He had forgotten that this old monster of the Tianji sect could calculate. When Zhang Yunxiao heard this, he was instantly overjoyed. He once again threw out a huge temptation. Yi Qinghan, do you know the true constitution of your disciple? Zhang Yunxiao asked excitedly. Replying senior, this junior knows. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. Having good talent was not a good thing. If he chose a side, he would definitely offend others. Although a quasi-emperor was broad-minded, there would always be a knot in his heart. Oh. You actually know about the Zither Immortal Crimson Demon Physique. Zhang Yunxiao blurted out. What did you say? Old Zhang, this girl has the Zither Immortal Crimson Demon Physique. The same physique as that existence. The quasi-emperors were shocked. In the Desolate Era, there were a total of 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. The existence they were referring to was naturally one of the 3 sovereigns of the first generation. The Zither Dao War Sovereign, also known as the Zither Emperor, Mu Tiancan. He was the supreme Zither Dao War Sovereign. He opened a Dao and became the human sovereign. Even great emperors had to bow before him. Di Shang's body trembled. He only knew that Emperor Yi was very terrifying. Once he opened his eyes, the Tao of destruction could cause chaos. But who would have thought that she actually had the human sovereign physique? That's right. The Zither Emperor was a good friend of my Zhan family's ancestor. The Zither Dao War Sovereign stone tablet is still in the Zhan family's Dao realm. This old man can't be wrong. She definitely has the Zither Immortal Crimson Demon physique. Zhan Yunxiao said in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. He looked at Zhan Yunxiao and thought to himself, these old monsters probably won't let go so easily. My metal origin Dao body is already nothing. It can't be compared to the Zither Immortal Crimson Demon physique. Let me say this first. Emperor Yi is a disciple that I have my eyes on, just like Si Wuxia. I will fight with any of you. Di Shang stood up and glared at everyone. He was resolute and had no intention of compromising. Have you nurtured him? The Zither Immortal Crimson Demon physique is the ancient human sovereign physique. Other than the stone tablet left behind by the Zither Emperor, no one else can nurture him. Zhan Yunxiao stood up. His battle intent surged. He was even more unwilling to compromise. The quasi-emperors were all red in the face. They wanted nothing more than to fight and conquer this world. Yi Qinghan was speechless. He raised his head and said, Seniors, Emperor Yi is my disciple, shut up. The quasi-emperors shouted in unison. Yi Qinghan, Emperor Yi smiled bitterly and stood up. He bowed and said, Seniors, this junior only recognizes one master and will only have one master. The quasi-emperors, after arguing for so long, even the main character could not bear to watch any longer. Geniuses were willful. They could choose whoever they wanted. No one could influence Emperor Ye's will. She did not care if she offended these supreme existences. Yi Qinghan, Emperor Yi is still young and does not know how to make a choice. However, if you don't want him, you are also not sensible. The quasi-emperors looked at Yi Qinghan threateningly. Right now, they could only fight for Yi Qinghan. If they could fight for Yi Qinghan, it would mean that they could fight for Emperor Yi. They could even fight for another human emperor's bloodline, the golden bloodline. Qinghan, I am the one who nurtured you. Di Shang deliberately sighed and looked at Yi Qinghan with sincerity. Di Shang, can you be a little more shameless? Don't play the emotional card. Everyone reprimanded. They were all quasi-emperors, and no one gave face to the other. Yi Qinghan's heart was about to collapse. It was as if there were 100,000 ferocious beasts running wildly. Seniors, you think so highly of this junior. This junior is really ashamed. Yi Qinghan was speechless. He knew that they were interested in the Zither Immortal Crimson Demon physique and that he was just a side benefit. However, he could not say anything. Dear emperors, can we all bow to each other? We are all masters. Isn't that great? It won't hurt each other's feelings. Master can still learn more, right? The parrot's eyes flashed. It took the initiative to speak for Yi Qinghan. If they were rejected, these old fellows would not argue with a little bird. However, what if they succeeded? Yi Qinghan would be lucky. The Dao tablets left behind by the emperors and the cultivation techniques left behind by the human emperors were much more complete than the divine martial emperor code. Yi Qinghan pressed down on the parrot's head and purposely said, Seniors, please don't argue with it. It just likes to talk. Di Shang looked at the parrot angrily. He knew that this stupid bird was unreliable. However, the other quasi-emperor's eyes lit up. In terms of feelings, they could not compete with the ancient massacre god. In terms of benefits, they could not compete with the Zhan family's Dao realm. After all, there was the Zither Emperor's Dao tablet. If they could bow to it, how could they not be happy? Who did not want to become the next Zither Emperor's master? Just this identity alone was enough for them to be famous for eternity. Forever in the annals of history. All right. I agree. Xia Qintian, the emperor of the Sky Dragon Sacred Dynasty, said immediately. I agree too. I have no objections either. In an instant, other than Zhang Yunxiao and Di Shang, all the other quasi-emperors agreed. They had no choice but to agree. Then Emperor Yi should be comprehending the Zither Emperor's Dao tablet in our Zhan family's Dao realm. You can't fight for it anymore. Otherwise, you will be delaying the glory of the human race. You will be a sinner of the human race. Zhang Yunxiao reminded. Everyone's mouth twitched. They were speechless and did not dare to argue. Chapter 218. Within the ancient massacre god palace, heroes coexisted, and even fake emperors had to stand aside. Yi Qinghan stood proudly. Even if a quasi-emperor took him in as a disciple, they could not arrange his life. Reverence was one thing, but he still had to walk his own path. Seniors, I still have some matters to take care of. I will visit the Dao realm experts one by one, Yi Qinghan said respectfully. It's time to change the way you address me. Xia Qintian smiled. The emperors all nodded. They had to confirm this level of relationship before they could be at ease. Disciple Yi Qinghan greets the masters. Yi Qinghan did not act pretentiously. It was a great honor to be able to take these quasi-emperors as his masters. If any prince knew that these quasi-emperors were taking him in as a disciple, he would have fought for this spot long ago. Ha ha ha. Good, good. The human race has gained another prince. The human race's glory is just around the corner. Zhang Yunxiao was extremely excited. The human race had been suppressed for too long, and it was time to explode. He was afraid that Yi Qinghan would not be able to find the Zhan family's Dao realm expert, so he took out a Zhan family medallion and said, with this medallion, I can guide you to the Zhan family. Moreover, no one will dare to stop you. Yi Qinghan stood up and respectfully took the medallion. He found that this medallion was definitely a supreme treasure. Its effects were indescribable, and it was filled with the origin of laws. There were even some great Daos. Afterward, the other powers all threw out medallions that represented their status. Yi Qinghan did not hold back and took them all. The parrot was extremely happy. With these medallions, who would dare to be impudent in the human race? Yi Qinghan brought Emperor Yi out of the ancient massacre god palace. He did not dare to move around carelessly. This place was filled with killing intent. If he accidentally entered a death zone, the formation would instantly kill him and Emperor Yi. In the Hunter Hall, a group of young disciples saw Yi Qinghan and came forward to thank him. There was no lack of emperor-level experts among them. They all wore smiles and were not arrogant. Yi Qinghan nodded repeatedly, unwilling to offend them. These young experts would become the cornerstones of the human race. Many of them would die in battle for the human race, and their blood would dye the battlefield red. Yi Qinghan cupped his fists and said, Fellow Taoists, I still have some personal matters to attend to. If we meet again in the future, I'll treat you all to a meal and have a good chat. Ha ha ha, then we'll be waiting for Brother Yi. Everyone laughed and cupped their fists in return. Nangong Shen, Lin Aoqiong, and the others appeared one after another. They waved at Yi Qinghan and said loudly, Brother Yi, let's go and become a hunter. Good. Wait for me. Yi Qinghan followed Nangong Shen and the others into the main hall. At this moment, Nangong Shen had officially become a 5-star hunter. His killing robes were majestic, and he had also fulfilled his wish to become a member of the ancient massacre gods. Lin Aoqiong, Dugu Baidian, Xiao Yuni, Yi Qinghan, and Emperor Yi entered the depths of the headquarters. The depths were incomparably majestic, and the aura of righteousness and killing intent coexisted. No one dared to blaspheme this place. Nangong Shen's majestic aura was no longer gentle. He stood on the stage with 5 killing robes in his hands. He stared at the 5 people and said in a low voice, I am Nangong Shen, a member of the ancient massacre gods. I hereby confer the status of 3-star hunters to the 5 of you. Remember, as hunters, you must uphold the glory of the human race. You must not betray the human race, betray your faith, or become a traitor. Otherwise, the ancient massacre gods will kill you even if they have to enter the Forbidden Land. Yi Qinghan and the others stared at the rules of hunters. The first rule was that they must not betray the human race, betray their faith, or become a traitor. Traitors were traitors, and they would never have a good ending. They would be despised by the human race. The second rule. After becoming a hunter, they must protect the human race for life. Even if they were stained with blood on the battlefield, they must not retreat half a step. They must be loyal to the human race until death. There were at least 100 rules. All of them revolved around the righteousness of the human race. From this, one could see the purpose of the ancient massacre gods and the greatness of the Creator. Please make the oath. Nangong Shen said in a deep voice. I, Yi Qinghan, hereby swear that I will never betray the human race, betray my faith, and become a traitor. I swear that I will protect the human race for life. Even if I am stained with blood on the battlefield, I will not retreat. I must be loyal to the human race until death. Swearing the oath was a long process. Yi Qinghan and the others pounded their chests with their right fists. Their blood boiled as they recited the oath without hesitation and memorized it in their hearts. Their voices surged, penetrating the shackles of the void and spreading to the outside world. It affected the heroes and made their blood boil. They wanted to swear the oath right now and fight for the human race. We swear that if we go against the oath today, we will be despised by the human race for eternity. The 5 of them roared the last sentence with all their might, causing the sky to tremble. Once the oath was made, all laws would recognize it, and the great Tao would descend. Whoever dared to betray the oath would be hunted down by all the heroes in the world. Nangong Shen and the others had tears in their eyes. In fact, they were not the only ones. Outside the hunter hall, almost everyone had tears in their eyes. They clenched their fists and wanted to become hunters immediately. Swearing the oath was not just words. It had to be proven with actions. They shed tears today and shed blood in the future. They could even die in battle for the human race. Wear it. In the future, whether you are a member of the ancient massacre god or not, we will all be brothers and sisters. Nangongshan handed over the 5 robes and said in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan and the others took the robes and put them on. They were dazzling with 3 stars. The 5 of them were definitely unprecedented. This was a robe that was obtained through strength. Emperor Yi also felt that it was an honor. It was worth wearing. Their clothes fluttered in the wind as the word kill seemed to come alive. It was far more terrifying than the 1-star killing gown. The quality of the word was also much better. The 5 of them walked out of the hunters' headquarters side by side. They gazed at the heroes and saw the excitement in their eyes. Gu Qingyu and the others were also excited. At this moment, there was nothing more exciting than becoming hunters. Moreover, they had the qualifications to become hunters. The mortality rate was above 55%. They were still alive, which was proof. No one dared to say no. Especially in the space where Yi Qinghan was, there were at least 20,000 people who had comprehended the space laws. Once they joined forces, they could definitely tear apart a divine martial expert. However, they were grand martial saints. Only a small portion of them were immortal sect experts. Nangongshan also walked out. He looked at the hundreds of thousands of people in the square and said in a deep voice, "Those brothers who followed me to train, those who comprehended the space laws in the end, line up in 10 lines. I will personally bless you with the robes and preside over your oath." Gu Qingyu and the others formed the first line and became the second batch of people to swear the oath. Yi Qinghan and the others stood to the side and waited quietly. Nangongshan swiped the void, and the rules of the hunter hall appeared in the void. He waved his hand, and more than 300 three-star hunters walked over with robes in their hands. As hunters, you must have your own beliefs in your hearts. That is the glory of the human race. Ask yourselves, do you have them? Nangong Shen used the laws and roared. His voice shook the clouds for thousands of miles. Even Emperor Abyss City could be heard clearly. Yes. We fight for our beliefs, for the glory of the human race. Even if we dye the battlefield with blood and bury our corpses in the void, we will not regret it even if we die. Tens of thousands of people roared in unison. Their auras were vast, suppressing the great Tao for thousands of miles. These people were all elites of the human race, super elites. Tears flowed from their eyes. This moment was glory. Tears did not represent cowardice, but glory and happiness. The human race does not know your names. Even if you die on the battlefield, they will not know of your existence. Will you regret it? Nangong Shen's tears flowed, and the emotions of millions of elites were stirred. We will not regret it even if we die. Everyone cried. They wore the robes and could die at any moment, but no one was willing to retreat. You are heroes, heroes of the human race. The human race might not remember your names, but the ancient killing god will not forget you. Your names will be engraved on the hero tablet. Even after hundreds and thousands of years, your names will remain in the world forever. Now, swear the oath. Golden light erupted in the void. The rules of the hunter tablet were engraved in the void, stealing people's souls. I, Gu Qingyu, swear that I will never betray. Tens of thousands of people swore at the same time. Their auras suppressed the heavens for thousands of miles. The great Tao of the heavens avoided them. The blue sky and white clouds surged for millions of miles. The righteous aura and killing intent made people's blood boil. The entire imperial region was boiling because of this, and they felt even more reverence towards the hunter tablet. Even if we die on the battlefield, we will not regret it. A majestic voice resounded through the air. An inch of mountains and rivers, an inch of blood, 1,000,000 youths, 1,000,000 soldiers. The human race was weak, but they were united. So what if there were tens of thousands of races? So what if they were dead spirits? After countless eras, they had not conquered half of the human race's territory. Your lives, including mine, were saved by Yi Qinghan. Let him say the most glorious words for our lives that are about to fall. Nangong Shen leaned to the side and gestured to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan was stunned. He did not expect Nangong Shen to push him out at this time. Looking at the expectant eyes of tens of thousands of people, he clenched his fists and stepped forward. His aura rose, and his body shone with golden light. He clenched his right fist and leaned it against his right chest. He said in a low voice, I, Yi Qinghan, am honored to have brothers and sisters like you who have fought side by side in this world. May the human race be glorious for thousands of years. May the heroes be immortal. May the human race be glorious for thousands of years. May the heroes be immortal. Tens of thousands of people roared. They wanted to kill their way into the heavens and step into the forbidden land. The quasi-emperors looked at Yi Qinghan in front of the hunter tablet and nodded. If he could say such words, he would not become a traitor. He was a person who respected heroes. He was worthy of being nurtured by the human race. Nangong Shen pursed his lips and suppressed his emotions. He was not even this excited when he swore to become the ancient killing god. He also did not have this honor. This group of existences before him must be die-hard loyalists of the human race. Yi Lingyu looked at Yi Qinghan as if he was looking at the unparalleled war king of the past. He was an existence who could fight against hundreds alone and would die without regret. His heart was sad. In the end, he was still inferior to him. There was no jealousy in Gu Qingyu's eyes. Instead, they were filled with gratification. His brother was able to reach this step because of his hard work. He was confident that he could also reach this step after his hard work. The killing robes were distributed. They were all ordinary killing robes. If one wanted to reach 1 star, they would still need to work hard. Many people did not even get a 1-star killing robe before they died. This era was cruel. Either you fight or you hide. You're tuning into the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.